Welcome back, everyone, to Red Spotlight. I'm your host, Alexis Soto, joined by Alexis Moreno for the first time in over a month, it seems like. She's been away doing some very important things for herself, but now she's back to, I don't know, we're just going to be here as long as we want to and, you know, bitch, whine, and moan, and maybe even rave about some of the stuff that we've been seeing here the last couple of days, weeks, and months as far as it concerns movies and television. So much of that here. Stay tuned on Red Spotlight number 430. So, how have you been?
Been good. Been busy. Tired.
Yeah. I think that pretty much summarizes how I've been feeling these last few weeks. I don't know what it is about, like, coming back from the holiday break, at least for me. But there's just something tiring and not so pleasant about it. I find myself.
I didn't even do anything.
No, me
we
neither.
Literally slept all day.
Yeah, I know.
Like Christmas, Thanksgiving,
New
Year's we did something, but yeah, we didn't do much.
Yeah, neither did I, but it's amazing how much it just, like, it's supposed to be a break, but then when you go back and kind of like, oh, I'm still like, you know, maybe because I've just, like, been sleeping later, but, like, I found myself, like, maybe like once, not during work, but after work when I come back, I do find myself, like, nodding off. I think yesterday, I had my computer in my lap, I closed my eyes, and then by the time I opened them again, it was on the floor.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it was fine. I mean, clearly the computer's fine. But it's like, yeah, I think you're probably tired. And, like, I guess, like, there was some times this week where I was trying to, you know, try and be good on myself and get to bed at, like, at 10:30, 11 o'clock. But I could never get any earlier than, like, 1. Like, every day.
Hate that. Well, now, because my work schedule changed, so I set my alarms, but I don't wake up at that time. But my first alarm goes off at 3 in the morning, and I don't get up till 4, because if I don't, I won't hear a single thing, and I won't wake up.
Oh my god!
I get scared.
Yeah, you don't want to, like, not wake up.
Yeah, and so I get home, and I mean, it was the first week that I had to be like this, so it was kind of like it's like an adjustment period, but I'm hoping, like, by next week I kind of get, like, a more handle on things, and I started school this week, so I don't want to, like, take naps and stuff, and I want to be in bed by, like, 8 o'clock, and then maybe fall asleep at, like, 9 or something, to have, like, some sleeping time. But it's interesting.
Yeah, I've just been so tired and sleepy, and yeah, I can definitely understand what you're saying there, and not wanting to, like, risk staying asleep because, you know, sleep is so good these days.
I'm such a heavy sleeper. Like, I literally have my phone next to me, and sometimes David will go and, like, knock on my door and be like, your alarm has been going off for, like, an hour.
Oh my god, really?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn. While he was asleep and he woke up because of the alarm?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh god. Anyway, it's been a interesting couple of weeks because while we're on the post House of the Dragon, post The Crown, post Andor, I guess we could consider The Last of Us as the next big show going on. It's getting a lot of attraction, or I should say traction and buzz going off, and I'm sure later on in the show we're going to talk about it because you did see the first episode and even listen to a podcast, so you have a lot of insight into that. But yeah, it's just like, for me anyway, these last few weeks, really these last 2 months especially, I've been really going out of my way to watch as many movies as possible, because of just a genuine curiosity. There's a lot of movies out in any given year, and every time we come to the awards season, like half of them you've never heard of, and it makes you feel like, well, where the fuck was I? You know, like if we're like doing this thing where, you know, we say that movies are a passion for us, why is it that this happens all the time? And for me anyway, I'm always in the know, I would say, of what most movies are, because I've always like paid attention to like the awards season, the Oscar season of it. But most of the time, I've never really gone out of my way to watch all of them because it's a lot. And there's also different kinds of movies too, because you have, you know, the international ones can be sometimes hard to track down. You also have like short films, both in live action and animation. You have also short documentary films. You have documentary films. That's a whole different thing in and of itself. So and those, by the way, are all different categories of the Academy Awards. And so it's just hard to like gauge, like, okay, well, where do I start? And so
I know that's how I feel, and I feel like that's why a lot of the time I don't watch them as much as you guys do, because I get like super overwhelmed.
Yeah,
it's like I get very anxious about it.
Do you have any idea how many movies? Do you like track how many movies you've seen in a given year on Letterboxd, or not really?
No.
Because what I do, I put all the movies. I don't count the TV shows on Letterboxd. I'm not even going to get into it. You know what it is? I'm not going to go there. I'm just going to say Letterboxd, so far, their statement seems to be highly hypocritical, but we're not going to belabor that point. It's been discussed. It's like I saw on Letterboxd, Tales of the Jedi is on there, like, go fuck yourselves. Okay, that's not a movie, but, you know, fine. Because... On every year, what I do is I make a list of all of the movies I've seen in a given year. And I'm happy to say that as the years have gone by, I've made much more of an effort to go and see much more of them. And I've always felt like the more things you see, the more different kinds of stories you're exposed to. And then you might find some things that you didn't know you'd like, or you'll find some things that maybe you respect but are very much not for you, or you can find some things that are just absolute not it. It happens almost every year. But as far as I can see here, I used to, I think sometime between 2017 through 2019, I was averaging around. You see, it ranges from year to year, because look at this. A
lot of movies last
I know.
year.
In 2017, I only saw 37 movies.
That's me.
But then, like, in 2018, I saw 50. And then in 2019, that went up to 63. More or less in the same, like, ballpark. But that's, you know, that's a lot to see. It doesn't sound like that many, but that's a lot to see. It's a lot. And then last year in 21, that total went to 82.
God.
So it like skyrocketed there. And in these last few hours, I logged the 99th film for this last year. So I'm at 99, and I'm for sure
be the 100.
I don't know which it might be. I'm interested in seeing 13 Lives. I think it's 13 Lives by Ron Howard. It's on Amazon Prime Video, and from what I've seen, it's gotten a lot of really good reaction to it. Like one of the better received Ron Howard movies in like a long time. So I might see that one tonight, but there's still others that I'm interested in. Mm-hmm. That I haven't had the chance to see, but it's like, wow, that's crazy. 99 movies. in a given year. And look, I get that it's overwhelming, and I'm not even. I know some people. I feel like Kyle thinks like he's judged for not seeing as many movies, but then again,
I don't watch a lot of movies.
You don't either.
Mean, when I say, but it's like weird though, because I feel like we do watch a lot of movies, but it's just not like I wish I watched more. But also like another thing with me is just like I like watching movies and I enjoy watching these movies, but a lot of the times it's like when I get home, like I don't feel, I work as a receptionist. I look at a computer screen all day, like literally every second of the day. And I just feel like I don't want to make that big commitment. And like when I watch a movie, like I want to like fully invest in it, you know? Like I don't want to like just have it in the background. And I don't feel that most of the time I can do that when I watch a movie, you know, especially one that I like really, really want to watch. Like I can't, or I don't want to do that. So that's like my thing when it comes to like.
No, I feel you, and I feel that way sometimes as well. And it's like when I want to get to something that I've been meaning to see, then the day, the hour, the moment arrives, and then you're like, you know what? The way my mental capacity is today and the day that I've had and how I'm feeling right now, I can't give this film my full attention.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to like, and it's weird because I think a lot of people don't think about those things. Like when I want to watch something, I want to give it my full attention. You know, I want to be.
Because I like them. I enjoy them. You know?
So I want to be in the moment, like fully in it, and not like be so distracted by it.
Like I hate people that like start watching movies and then they fall asleep. And that's happened like a few times with me, and I don't like doing that because like when I sit down to watch a movie, it's because I want to see it. You know,
people who do that,
they irritate me.
And then they make no attempt to ever watch it again in their life. And it's like they assume, oh, I was bored, that's why I fell asleep. Maybe you were just tired. Yeah. Maybe you shouldn't have been watching a movie in the first place to even do that. God, I hate that so much. I hate it.
I do too. Like, and I don't mean like
to be rude or pompous or pretentious. Me
because again, I feel like all of us here are like super passionate about these types of things. Especially
like we're the kind of people that think about the people behind that make these things. Like we don't just look at them as like something to just like kill time or as pure entertainment. Like we're so invested in these things that we know. All right, who wrote it? Who's the person that directed it? Who's the production designer? Who's the costume designer? It's like all of these different. There's so many people that come together to make just one little movie. And, like, we take the time to, like, oh, I wonder who was in charge of this department. Or, like, wow, the cinematography here. We actually know what that word means. Yeah. I know that sounds so pretentious as hell, but, I mean, it's the truth. And it's, like, we want to, like, oh, man, this is, like, one of the better looking ones. And it's And most people are, like, cool. Can I just stream it? Also, if we're being honest, I think there are a lot of people that just need something they can watch and then never think about ever again. Yeah. And I understand that too, but that's just not the way that I see it. I can understand wanting to feel that, and I have felt, that sometimes, but not all the time. Yeah. Mm-hmm. If it was that all the time, why would I care about movies if that was the case, Why even, do this? Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. It's like... I mean, have you seen my room? Fucking movies all over the place. And, I look, I feel like we get to this kind of explanation all the time, but it's the truth. And it's never been more truer now because of just the mere fact that so many of these films that, are promoted in the awards circuit are no longer really finding an audience in a theater. If anything, the people, the audience for those movies in particular, movies like Women Talking, or She Said, or Triangle of Sadness, or Fablemans, or Tar, all those things. It used to be, even just 5 years ago, there would be an audience for all of those films, and it would make a pretty penny. Mm-hmm. Now, all those people are just like, I'll just wait for it to come home. Now that
makes me so sad.
It's so sad, but I want to be clear. I'm not saying it's just that audience. No, I think generally speaking, all different kinds of audiences, and in general, the general audience are now of that same mind track. And I know, and I hope people who listen to our show can understand at this point that sometimes we're going to break off into like several different tangents. I don't even know if you heard the last podcast.
Yeah.
That was the whole last podcast where we just kept going from one thing to the other and then like trying to backtrack. But I had such a good time talking about anime and animation. That was fun. That was last week's episode. But as far as like what you just said and where I want to go off with this almost immediately, is I don't know anymore. I'm sorry, I don't know anymore.
The general audience for movies.
Yes, thank you. I got it back. Thank you. It was like, it's like a needle in a haystack, and as soon as you let go of it for a second, it just like goes away. Talking about this topic,
we're getting old.
It feels like it is. Maybe it's just the work we got. Maybe it's the age. Who knows at this point? But yes, I feel like with especially 2022 and what we have seen, Bob Chapek is a person that you and I have personally had issues with for the entire time he was at Disney. But it is really concerning that the animated films that were released last year theatrically were just so ignored to the point where it's like, well, what's happened here? And I feel like it's pretty clear what it is, and that is Chapek screwed the pooch in a way I don't think he could even have come close to fathoming, which is, oh, your premier prestige animated projects, Disney, you're telling me you're just gonna like drop this on Disney Plus now with my subscription included, instead of having to take my whole family out and spend so much more money every single time to seeing these movies, even just like 4 times a year, maybe even once or twice. Okay. I don't think it's been as clear as it is with Disney animation and how it performed so poorly and pitifully. And it's like several in a row. And I think like, yes, there are asterisks with the last few ones where you can say, well, this happened here and that happened here. With Strange World, there was no marketing campaign.
Absolutely
there was no marketing campaign. Nobody knew the film even existed. So it's like, okay, I guess in a way you can kind of see why a film that no one knew existed didn't do well at the box office. Sure, okay, yeah, that tracks. Especially when anybody who did want to go to a theater in like the heat of November had like 20 other options playing. So it was just a bad time. By the way, never do that again. Never release all your awards season like movies in like 2 months. That was insane. Never again. It used to be from like September all the way to even January. It used to be January there would be some like late hitters, but it's like, no, we gotta change that. Okay, so that's Strange World. Then came Lightyear. And you know, on paper
about that movie.
Well, I mean, who could blame you? The movie is what the movie is. But like on paper, if you're an executive, a movie executive, and you're like, a Buzz Lightyear animated film, straight to theaters, this is gonna make all the money. The last thing that was connected to Buzz, yes,
like, please,
the Toy Story franchise like the last Toy Story movie made $1 billion. That's like, yeah, it's a no-brainer. It's gonna go and make all the money in theaters. No one gave a fuck. No one gave a fuck. And if we're also being honest with ourselves, I think we all just assumed in large part why it didn't do so good out of the gate before the reviews and the reaction settled in. The marketing campaign. Well, this one did have a marketing campaign, so there was that.
But it was weird.
But it was inept because it couldn't sell you on like, what
is it?
Yes, it couldn't sell you on even that. And it was so funny when the movie Lightyear starts with like a title sequence, or like not a title sequence, but like a title card in a way where it's like in 1995. Such a weird thing to start off the movie with, like. Andy saw a movie that changed his life, whatever. This is that movie. If you have to start your movie like that after the marketing campaign, you've already kind of like are working at a disadvantage, to be fair to them. So like again, like those films had big things working against them that, you know, definitely contributed to people not wanting to go see it. But maybe we were missing the biggest thing, which is perhaps family just said, you know what? It's not going to take that long for it to be on Disney Plus. We'll just wait. Because you know what else was something we don't want to spend too much time acknowledging because it really does hurt? And yes, while Encanto is an international phenomenon and in the advent of streaming, catapulted to a status perhaps no film has reached since The Lion King because of its popularity and its storytelling and its music.
But it was a big old flop.
It only lasted 30 days in theaters before they decided to go straight to Disney Plus after that. While still, I mean exclusively in theaters. It was still playing after 30 days, but let's be real here. Most people saw that movie on Disney Plus.
We didn't hear anybody talking about it until January.
Yeah.
And I just saw a video of like the top soundtrack or album of 2021. Mm-hmm. It was Encanto.
Except nobody saw it in 2021. Nobody saw it in 2021. It shouldn't even count at that point, but it's like, no.
It passed Adele. Like,
I know. And what makes that even sadder, and again, at that point, we thought, well, we're still in the first year out of the pandemic. Again, there's a lot of asterisks here. But you know what was a red flag? Was at the exact same time that Encanto was playing in theaters, another animation film was playing in theaters by Illumination, and it was a sequel called Sing 2. And guess which movie kicked the other one's ass when it came to pure box office dollars? It wasn't Encanto. Encanto got its ass kicked. And again, look, the argument is, and look, to be clear, I and no one is saying that Sing 2 is in any ways better or as good as anything Encanto was. No. But something specific is happening to Disney. Disney animation that it's not really affecting any of the other animated movies. Now, even right now, and even to a more extreme degree, Puss in Boots is in theaters. It's still making a lot of money. And I guess the difference, and this is weird because Universal, I know it's DreamWorks and it's Universal. They have this thing where after 17 days, all their films, they don't go to streaming, they go to PVOD, Premium Video On Demand. And if you want to rent that at home, you got to pay $25 out of pocket.
Mm-hmm. But that I feel like we've always said this, that like at least makes more sense to me because you're making more money out of this movie that you need to pay back.
Yes.
And, you know, pay the people who made this movie. Like it never, ever, ever made sense to me. And I know that we've said this in those months of 2020 that, you know, we were recording every single day.
We were, weren't we?
You know, this is like the thing that we kept saying, like, okay, people cannot go to the movies right now.
Mm-hmm.
Put them on in whatever to pay to go to watch them at your home. Like, it never made sense at all to just put them on Disney Plus with your, and I know that they did it for like what was it,
Soul.
Yeah,
Soul and Wonder Woman. That was, but that, I think everybody understood, or at least we were hoping, that was a very special occasion.
Yes.
That would never have happened if it wasn't for the pandemic and the particular spot we were at that point. But then, where they fucked up more so was when they kept doing it. Like, think about this. Look at the timeline here. Soul was dropped on Disney Plus Christmas Day 2020. At the time, it was seen as an experiment. We're now here almost 3 years later, and now it's the norm. And you've seen, just in that short span of time, the mess it's made to the profitability of these films. Because it wasn't just that one-time thing. Look what happened. So we're in December 2020. It's Soul. It drops on Disney Plus. The next shoe to drop is Luca, the most, and I want to remind people, according to Nielsen, the most streamed film of 2021. Period. Least we forget. And should have won the Academy Award, in my opinion, but we're not going to go there. I mean, I did, and I will all the time, but that film was great. We all loved it. And when it dropped, all of us were like, what are you doing?
Yes.
What are you doing?
But we also have to keep in mind that when Luca came out, we had to pay for Jungle Cruise and I believe for Black Widow also, right?
Uh-huh, yeah.
But not for Luca.
Not for Luca. Not for Luca. So you see already there, Disney was telling its subscribers, hey, there's a different tier here. The animation films, yeah, whatever. You can get them in your subscription for free. The other ones, you got to pay.
The thing that made us, whatever.
Yeah. But that wasn't the end of it, now was it? Because later that year, on Christmas Day, 1 year to the day that Soul was dropped on Disney Plus, and so was Encanto. Most people saw Encanto on Disney Plus, and you know what made it even more fucking worse? Was not that far from there. Now, in December 2021, that's when Encanto dropped. Fast forward really quickly to March 2022, then comes Turning Red. So do you see the dominoes that just fell in like a short span of time from Soul to Luca to Encanto to Turning Red? You done fucked up. Because at that point, you may have, like, that's like the genie coming out of the bottle. I don't know if it's going to go back in.
What makes it like more upsetting is just because...
Well, it was so avoidable. I mean, you could have just stopped it at Soul.
But I think that like the 2010s, although like I enjoyed the animated movies and stuff, but 2010s was kind of also their flop era in some cases.
Which studio?
For Disney Animation, Pixar.
Uh-huh.
I'm not saying all of them, but
no, yeah.
You know, for the most part, we weren't too excited as you know. It was better than the early 2000s, or than the like 2000s.
Yeah,
but, you know, it was a step up. But I feel like since then, in like 2020 and on, they've been releasing such good movies that deserve the chance to, you know, succeed and be in the movies and to tell these stories, and it's not happening.
It's not happening. And you know what? We always forget to mention this film because it was like, it got the hook because of COVID in the beginning, but onward. I guess.
And Raya.
Yeah.
Oh. Please.
I forgot that movie existed. I'm sorry. Yes, so between Onward and Raya and Encanto and Luca and Soul and Turning Red, Yeah, it's a lot of very diverse and exciting stuff, and in a lot of those projects, I think, particularly when it comes to Luca Turning Red, I think and Encanto are the more shining examples of these movies. But like, they even feel like auteur movies, where it's like they're so director driven, they're so personal story driven.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they become so much more potent and just better quality stories as a byproduct of that.
Onward is literally a kind of like the director, what's his name? Dan
Scanlon. Yeah, Dan
Scanlon. This is the story about his dad. Like his own personal, trauma in, his dad's passing.
One of the most affecting scenes in that film, or I think maybe even you can even clip this scene out of Onward and put it up there with some of the best Pixar sequences, where the Tom Holland character, what's his name? The main character anyway, he's playing a tape recorder of his father's voice recordings, and the music is swelling up, and I'm like, that's so good. It's
so good.
Yeah.
And it's so upsetting just how, you know what? Fuck Bob Chapek. I hate him.
He really he threw these movies under the bus that he was driving and ran them over. And like, it's so upsetting because I mean, like, these films are truly the crowning achievement, or they're the crown jewel of Disney, and then you look at all the stuff that does go out to theaters. I mean, none of those movies had a fair shake, and even Onward, I would even consider a film that, well, I mean, they just put it on VOD, like, I mean, not even like 2 months after because of how little money it made.
I think it was like the week after.
But you know what? And this really is disgusting and infuriating. The one that did get, like, no questions asked, this is going to the theaters. Lightyear. Of all of these movies, Lightyear.
They thought the power of Toy Story was too strong. They thought wrong. I like still don't understand what they were trying to do with that. It's such a weird movie.
I don't think they understood what they were trying to do with it.
Like, the only thing that got me excited about that movie was the song in the trailer.
Okay, sure. Jesus Christ, what a nothing movie. And Disney is just like, it's funny how you were saying that, like, the 2010s was like their flop era. I mean, they've had various flop eras, but I think you can just, and not just with animation, but just like generally speaking, you may look at where we are right now in the 2010s. And like, just looking at all of the theatrical output that Disney has had, it's just mostly Marvel movies. And by the way, in case anyone's forgotten, it's been a hot minute since we've had, big Marvel conversations on this podcast. But when you look at where it currently stands, you get a sense that there's been a turn in the wind, and that the overall perception right now is it's official. Marvel has like entered their flop era, their own personal flop era. And personally, I'm happy about that because I think they deserve it. No, I mean, I know it's funny to say that, but truthfully, like, Kevin Feige has shown that he understands these criticisms. And if you saw the finale and you read about the finale of She-Hulk, he knows all of them. he just won't do a damn thing to address them whatsoever.
So weird.
So it's
like why acknowledge it if you're not gonna do
anything? If you're not going to change the way you make these films, because by the way, it's like they look ugly, and then also you're overworking everybody and not paying them enough. And it's like, dude, it's like you're becoming the villain. You are the villain at this point. It's like, I don't want you to succeed. I want you to fail, because I'm sick and tired of people on the internet claiming you're God. And like, you know, there are these memes that have been around for years where some Marvel actor is asked a question, and then it's like a cheeky kind of thing where like they have Feige's smiling face over like a sniper or something, like to shut them up about spoilers and shit. And it's like, every time I see those memes now, I'm like, dude, you're like so living in 2019. No one cares anymore. No one, like, and it's like, again, who cares? And it's like, when you're looking at that trailer or any of the trailers that have come out for Ant-Man and the Wasp, it's so funny to me. I'm sorry if this comes across as if I'm making fun of people who like genuinely enjoyed those, but I guess there's no other way to get around it. I am, because when you look at that trailer and it's like, I feel nothing. There's nothing. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
And what is there is heinous, because you look at it's a big effects movie. And guess what? It looks like diarrhea. The whole thing looks like the color palette of diarrhea. And it's so dark. And it's like, that's why on the group chat, I was like, I can't see anything. I literally can't see anything. And it's like, and then, you know what was the one that took the cake? It was last Saturday in the group chat, to be specific. And I hope you saw it. I know I sent a lot of things, and sometimes I send too many things and you can like forget one of the things that I sent over. But this one was like, I think more memorable, and I hope it was, because it had actual pictures, which is like, there was screen grabs of 4 different Marvel movies, and there were effects heavy scenes and screenshots.
They all like blended together.
And it looked like it was from the same movie. All of them. And it was from, I think it was from Thor Love and Thunder, Doctor Strange, the new Ant-Man trailer, and then also from Loki.
Yeah.
It was from 4 different Marvel projects, and then you look at it and one thing and you wouldn't even know it, but you do know it now because it was pointed out to you. They're from different projects, but they look the same. And it's like, doesn't that just encapsulate how lazy and predictable and boring they've become? And like, it's like I was telling Peter the other day, it's like, look, why would I care? Why would any of us actually care at this point?
It seems like they don't care anymore.
Yeah. And I feel like there was a turning point with that She-Hulk finale where it made things even just that more gross, where it's like, oh, Mr. Feige, you're really just telling yourself, you told us you see all the things that people say about you, you hear all of that, but at the same time you're also saying you're not doing anything to change any of that.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like, this is also predictable. Like, we knew going into the Phase 4 situation that people were going to feel this way anyway, but even to it, the overall feeling of the MCU is just so much worse than even the individual things, because, again, I still like some of the individual Marvel stuff. Like, I like Love and Thunder. I don't think about it all that often, but you know what? Wakanda Forever was a good movie, even though it had some clear issues, but it was a good movie. Doctor Strange, when you turn the sound off, is a really good movie. I reckon...
Please.
You know what I would watch? I would watch a score-only version of Doctor Strange.
Okay, yeah, uh-huh.
I'll watch that one.
There's individual things of each movie that are good.
Yes.
But when they all mix together, no.
No, and one of the biggest... what unites all the Marvel projects, except for Werewolf by Night, because that was... not an effects-heavy project, but most of the MCU projects these days suffer from the same thing. And it's a decline in quality when it comes to the visual effects.
Yeah.
That Ant-Man stuff, I know it made... I know it came off like a joke, but like when I tell you that George Lopez and Shark Boy and Lava Girl looked so much better than freaking whatever that was in that Ant-Man trailer, it's not a joke. It's funny. I'm talking about MODOK, the guy, and I was like, what the fuck is this?
It was, yeah.
So it's like, look, they're dropping in quality overall too. And then if you look to just this year, as we've been saying for months now, can you name me one project that you're remotely interested in? Can you even name me the ones that are coming out this year?
No. and you know, I just thought of this too. You know, like what's worse? We again know that the 2010s were also the sequel era.
For Pixar?
Which we knew was to make these movies that have come out that they're all just wasting as well, which means that we went through the sequel era for no reason. Mm-hmm.
It's no, man, it really is depressing. And
we went through the live action era for no reason.
You think we're done, Miss Moreno, with the live action era? Because look,
but I mean, it's not as much as it was in the last decade.
Hey, I can totally get behind the idea that it might have even been an accident, but somehow Cruella and Jungle Cruise combined were easily some of the best live action output from the Disney studio since before the 2010s.
Yeah.
Like that was easily the best stuff that comes close because
after the 2010s.
No. That's what I'm saying. But this is the end now. That's why, you know, for a little bit anyway, it seemed like it changed the era. Yeah. But like, least we forget.
Lilo and Stitch is coming.
No. That this year. Oh no, this is bad.
It's next month.
Yes.
Oh god.
Yes. It's finally arrived. This is the year we're going to get Lion King 2019.
Oh, that's true.
We're going to get Lion King 2019. What does that mean? It is going to be an assault on the senses that there's like, I'm telling you right now, I don't know if I have the power to stop myself from watching this movie, even though I know.
I need to see it.
Even though I know part of me will be like, we'll say maybe in like the initial aftermath, you know what? That wasn't that bad. It was like, it wasn't good, but it was like, you know what? It was entertaining and everything. And then I know like not even a week later, I'll be like, that was dog shit. And it's so
let's not forget we were fooled by Beauty and the Beast.
Alexis, why did you have to bring that up? Why did you have to bring that up?
I always think about how happy and excited we were after that movie came out.
And then?
I don't think we ever talked about it afterwards.
Never. Never. Not once. I mean, the only time we did, because we had to, was when we did a podcast with Kyle, with Peter. And the thing at that point is like they came out on the other end. They were like hating on the movie. And then you and I, no, but it's like, to me, between that and the first time I saw Black Panther in 2018, it felt like I was like under some kind of spell, or it was like an illusion, because I walk out of those movies and I'm like, oh my God, they pulled it off. It was like really nice and shit. And then how I think about both of those movies now, while understanding, of course, in the case of Black Panther, and I respect the diversity and the significance it had on Black culture in America, and while that alone...
What do you mean? You don't respect the... the Josh Gad?
I remember being in... I was going to say about the whole thing. Black Panther in for Best Picture, I don't agree with, and it pissed me off, but I understand why people liked it, and okay, I can respect that if it meant that much to you. Okay, whatever. That was far from the worst film in the lineup that year. But to what you were saying about Beauty and the Beast and Josh Gad, I can recall so vividly being in that theater and just being so uncomfortable. So uncomfortable with like what he was doing there, and just you could even feel it in the crowd, and the crowd that we saw it with was just like they were fans and they were enjoying the movie. But when that stuff happened, maybe I was like hearing a deafening noise, like, you know, that kind of sound where you know, an explosion happened near you and your hearing goes like numb for a bit. Maybe I was just hearing that because I was just like blown away with
I remember being like, we knew that this was gonna happen and I was waiting for it.
Yeah, that's true.
And then
because Disney made the choice to like,
and I was still waiting for it.
Yeah. Because Disney at that point, they were hyping this up. They were like, hey, look at us. Clap, please. No, genuinely speaking, I think if it came out today, even just a few years later, it would... Disney did get dunked on. But you know what Beauty and the Beast didn't get? That if it came out today, it would get the In the Heights treatment. Where there would be these group of people who would almost immediately seek to cancel the film and completely just like... Because, I mean, look, In the Heights, what I mean for people who are not aware of, when In the Heights was released in early summer 2021, you know, at that point, that was the first like season of theater going post the beginning of the COVID pandemic, with, you know, vaccines and masks still in place and shit. But that movie didn't do well at all. Nobody saw that movie in theaters, and it was a big bomb. And on top of all of that, there was this scandal that even engulfed poor Rita Moreno in all of this. And I know that was a lot, and it was just unfortunate, and the whole thing was unfortunate. But what you saw there was, and to be clear, because I know that with every different movie that we come out, that every movie that comes out now has like these ultra right white nationalist Nazi people who want to cancel, quote unquote, even though they are against cancel culture, but they're all about cancel culture. I mean, literally, that's what they do. Because like Woman King came out, Woman King, which is a wonderful film. Viola Davis will probably get an Oscar nomination for that performance, and she deserves it because she's amazing in everything in general. But in that movie she was great. But like, yeah, a woman with black women came out, and they're like, well, we can't have that. And then they seek to campaign against it. I don't know what they think cancel culture is, but that's basically what they're doing. But not to group them in with the people who had very legitimate like issues with what was happening with colorism and In the Heights, because it's a very different subsect. But the point being is we're now in this highly politicized environment where films themselves now have to combat with a potential scandal or discourse broiling out while they're playing in theaters. And if Beauty and the Beast 2017, to be clear, that's the one we're talking about, not the masterpiece that should have won Best Picture back in 1991. Let's be real about that. The first ever animated film to be nominated for Best Picture. Fingers crossed, even though it won't happen, we can have the fourth ever nominated this coming week. It's not going to happen, but if it did happen, I'd be jumping for joy. Oh my God. I know, right? First ever stop motion, if that was the case. Mm-hmm. Back to what I was saying. If that version from 2017 came out today, I think it would get the In the Heights treatment, where there would be hate, there would be backlash, there would be a lot of stuff. Yeah, because
like you said, like it did get some of it, but it wasn't as intense.
No, not really. It kind of went away.
It did.
Like, it kind of was like everybody agreed, yeah, that was not great, and then we just moved on.
Yeah.
But then, you know what? The film went on to what? Gross $1 billion?
Oh God, I completely forgot that The Little Mermaid was coming out in like a month.
I know you. I was so surprised when you said Lilo and Stitch, which, by the way, that's also revolting. But when it comes to Little Mermaid, I know you and I have a particular like.
I think I just blocked it off.
We have a relationship with that film. We literally do, a special relationship with it. By the way, for those of you who want to know more about that, we have a wonderful audio commentary where it's just, the two Alexises here on our channel. It's one of our favorite ones that we've done so far. But yeah, of the Disney Renaissance, this has been you and I's favorite, and I guess it was going to happen sooner or later, but when I say, again, to clear up these references, when I say Lion King 2019, Kyle's favorite Disney Renaissance film is Lion King. And the 2019 version...
It's trash.
No, it's not. It's so much worse than that, Alexis. Let's be fair. We got to be fair to the film. And we got to also give Jon Favreau his due here.
The thing is, you guys only go through this one time. This is my second time going through this.
What do you mean you're... I'm sorry. Alice in Wonderland 2019 is not good?
2019.
Did I say 2019? I mean 2010. Alice in Wonderland 2010 is not good. I would watch that 100 times over The Lion King 2019.
Yes, true. But
that doesn't make it any better. I'm not making excuses. I'm not making excuses. But just to illustrate, to paint a picture for people who are listening, The Lion King 2019 is one of the worst films ever made. It is one of the worst films ever made, and I've asked Peter, I've asked Kyle, and I've said this myself on the channel several times before. That film is the single worst theatrical experience of all three of us. Of all the films we've ever gone to go see, it is not only the worst, but the worst experience. I spent half of my time watching that movie looking at the ground. And then and I told this to David, when I saw Puss in Boots in theaters, they played for the first time, I was able to see on the big screen, the Little Mermaid 2023 trailer.
Oh my God. Okay.
I couldn't see anything. It was like, hey, did someone forget to actually hire a director of photography here? Like, where's the fucking lighting? It's like, it literally looks like you fucking like dropped a GoPro in there and just like use that footage.
And like, I get it. It's supposed to be live action, but I mean...
It's ugly and it's dark and it's pitiful by comparison in every sense of the word.
I'm already kind of blind. Oh God. You know, when in movies, when they have, like, when they get a text or they put the bubbles because they got a text, like on the screen, or they're looking at their phone reading the text. Yeah, I can't read that. Ever.
I'm sorry. Hold on a minute. I didn't hear what you said. Because Peter is live. I'm reading the text that Peter sent over because he's like reacting to Tar, one of the awards films starring Kate Blanchett. Directed. What the fuck was that? In this house. I'm like, in this house. In this house. We'll talk about that in a bit. But like, he's watching Tar with starring Kate Blanchett, directed by Todd Field. Which one?
The trailer.
No, not yet. He's watching Tar. It's a different horror movie in and of itself. It's not really, but it kind of can be. But like he just not tweeted, but he messaged us, Jesus Christ, has the writer of Tar ever heard someone under 30 speak? Because there's this sequence where she rips into like this college student, and it's so funny because the whole thing is actually a really interesting like discussion on like I guess cancel culture, because it's like she's this really at the top of her powers. Film conductor, not film, but just like music conductor that also does some movie scores, and I guess her character. But the point is, she teaches a class at Juilliard, and one of the new students says like he can't listen to Bach's music because of the person he was, and she tears a new one on him about like it's this whole debate of like separating art from the artist, which, by the way, coincidentally enough, this week it was announced that they're going to go through with making a Michael Jackson biopic film, in, you know, a la Bohemian Rhapsody and Elvis, and all I could think of was maybe we shouldn't. Maybe we shouldn't.
I know it's controversial. I love Michael Jackson's music. I love
who doesn't love Michael Jackson's music?
But
it's amazing.
There's so many things to this person
that
it's not okay.
Like, because can you imagine, Alexis? Can you just? I know I'm sorry to cut you off, but you just imagine every step of the way from the first trailer to if it somehow ends up being in the awards discussion. Can you just imagine the outrage?
You know what I always think about? 'Cause when I say that I'm a huge fan of his music, like, I was obsessed with this guy. Like, I want to say between like 6th grade to maybe like even sophomore year. I had posters. I was obsessed with this person. And like, I always think like when the documentary came out, that I think it was on HBO,
Leaving Neverland.
Mm-hmm. Like things like that. Like, I always think about his kids.
Did you ever see it?
No,
okay.
I couldn't.
Maybe don't.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
I always think about
one of the hardest
kids,
movies.
Like his actual kids, you know, just like they've been through so much. Just like let it be, you know. This person did a thing, but he's also associated with another thing that, you know, it's not okay, and it's, you know, and if there's no way that you're gonna make this movie and not include these things, you know, like there's just no way. It's literally half of his life that, you know, this was dealt with, you know, like it's just don't do it.
That's the thing. It's like, as a filmmaker, and if you're gonna make like a movie in the vein of Bohemian Rhapsody or Rocket Man or Elvis, first and foremost, I've made no secret about this for years now. This genre of movies, I am sick and tired of. Granted, there can still be some good ones in there, like Rocket Man. And you know what? I think Elvis is really good. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's one of my favorite films of the year, but I think it's really good, and I can understand why people enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I respect Elvis in that Mr. Lerman really put his whole Baz out there with like the directing. It's so in your face.
Yeah.
I know that sounded gross, but that's how it feels sometimes. Like you're watching the film and it's like, dude, can you back off a little bit? But I almost respect, the flex that was from a directing, standpoint. But the struggle with these movies is
they don't include the controversial stuff, which
there's no room to include them, and even if they do, it's handled so poorly.
Yeah, I like one of you guys said it where they talk about these people, but they talk about a specific moment in their life.
Sure,
that gives you an idea of who this person was.
I guess the best example is Spielberg's Lincoln.
Yes. I think that's what you guys are talking about.
Mm-hmm. Or even Being the Ricardos was a good example of that one.
Uh-huh. It's like a defining moment in their life, which, they could have several, but it's just a little bit of like, an insight.
Right. That way it's not so overwhelming where we're just like the rise and fall, the ups and like that. There's a Whitney Houston biopic out right now in theaters. Have you heard anyone talk about it? It's Whitney fucking Houston. It's Whitney Houston. It's like, and that film is nowhere. And that just tells you it's like, wow, these movies have gotten they've gotten even staler than Marvel movies.
Mm-hmm. Even like what's it called, Judy?
Yes, which yeah, I that movie is more of, but
it's kind of sad.
It is sad. I like Judy, but I like it more for Renee's performance more so than as a movie. It's just not a movie that lights me up. Yeah, it's not my preferred.
But they focus on a specific thing.
Oh, that's true. That's right. Yes, that's true.
Even though it's a sad moment, and her life was sad. Mm-hmm. But can you imagine a Michael Jackson movie focusing on a specific moment?
Well, to me, you're asking for a lot of drama that I just want to leave in the past. He's been dead, and I'm not saying because a person is dead that means that it absolves them of what they did or that we should never discuss it again. I'm saying is it's been proven again and again there will never be consensus on how we can 100% feel about this complicated individual. Yeah. We can never know what happened. We can suspect that some nefarious things did happen, and we can leave that as there. Fact. We can leave that there, but it's like it's so hard to talk about him, and it's like and to be clear, like I'm one of these people. Like it's funny how this all just came from like a text that Peter just sent about, and when you see Tar, you'll see it. But like I can still enjoy Michael Jackson's music. But I'm not going to lie, it took like maybe a few months because after I saw Leaving Neverland, whenever I think I was at a restaurant and a Michael Jackson song came on and I'm like, was thinking of the... Yeah. Ooh. But the thing is, like, it was even said, I think in one interview, Michael Jackson's contribution as a musical artist is too great. Yeah. And that isn't the same thing as saying he was a stand-up guy. Most people are not good people.
Most in case that's people news that make a contribution are not good people. Yeah.
It's just the way that it is. And I know that it sounds like an excuse, but it's not an excuse. It's just reality.
I'm not saying, what happened with him is something small, but, everybody lives whole lives and, everybody goes through stuff, everybody does things, like but this just happens to be something that I don't think should be made into a movie.
It's too problematic, it's too complicated, it's just too it's kind of impossible because like I mean it's a no-win situation no matter what you do because are you really about to make a Michael Jackson biopic without even touching that stuff?
Exactly.
Because that's going to be...
There's no way.
And then when you do touch it, it's like...
Wow. Jeez.
It's a no-win, and I don't understand why anybody would want to jump into that project.
Yeah,
it's a thankless job.
Ugh. No,
so it seems like that's gonna be a thing that's moving forward, and okay, I expect nothing but like really it's just I can already see the discourse on Twitter.
It's so bad.
It's gonna be bad. It's gonna be really bad. It's like I feel like you and I have been doing this a lot long enough where we hear a story and you can already hear the train wreck when you read the story. You know how it's not the only one this week, because evidently...
Oh, I was hoping you would bring this up, because what the hell was that?
I can't even say the words. Because it's almost the same thing where it's like...
Why?
This is just a bad idea.
Wait, you have to say it, because I hope you're talking about what I'm thinking.
Okay, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales.
Okay, this is not where I thought it was going.
Well, what were you thinking?
No, go. Maybe it is.
I think it is. Okay. I think it's the same thing. I'm just like, I like to start by giving people some background. Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales is not good. At best, I think it's a perfectly fine watch to have in the background, maybe while you're doing other things. Maybe not something to take too seriously. At worst, you can make the argument for character assassination in a variety of different ways, and then it's also just like, you know, bungled storylines left and right, and no one caring about the well-being of Johnny Depp because he was allowed to make that movie while being drunk off his ass, and then also in the middle of what we all now know to be perhaps the most toxic relationship ever to face the planet. Well, not ever, but like one of the more high publicized ones with Amber Heard and shit. So it was he was not in the best condition to make a movie, suffice to say. But when it was first announced that I think it's Joachim Ronning was going to direct Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales, it was really exciting because he and his directing partner had done a project called Kon-Tiki, and it was received very well. And so Disney scooped them up to do the next Pirates film, and considering how poorly On Stranger Tides from a critical standpoint was received, there was the hope between... This is, by the way, years and years ago, Kyle and I being such super Pirates fans, there was the hope, both of us, that this would be like the one to turn it around. It did not. The film came out, and it was what it was, and, well, there still haven't been any other Pirates films, perhaps for the better. Joachim Ronning, the director of Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales, is currently in talks with Disney to direct the next Tron franchise. And I'm going to pause right there because Tron, in and of itself, has its own troubled history with Disney. Do you notice a theme here? That Disney just particularly has a tough time getting their signature live action franchises going anywhere. And my prediction, it's not going to get any better this decade from what I'm looking at right here. Because Tron Legacy, I think, was actually better than the first Tron movie from the 70s. Right? And I thought it was actually, you know, in retrospect, really good. I think the problem with Tron Legacy is the problem that people have now with James Cameron's original Avatar, which is the lead. Sam Worthington in Avatar was quite dull.
Yeah.
My personal opinion, I think he was rarely dynamic in the sequel. the growth that actor had in the sequel was immense, and it changed my opinion on that character. But for the first film being what it was, just very dull, and it kind of brought everything down. And that's what happened with Legacy. You had a lead that was just kind of like white bread and milquetoast and not at all very interesting, while everything else around him was so much more interesting. But then it came out at a time. It came out. I think the timing was also wrong. There wasn't that appetite, and then it's already been over 10 years since the last Tron movie. Okay, but it is a franchise worth mining and one worth exploring. Everybody sees that.
Look at they announced the opening date to the Tron ride.
Yeah,
and it's already a big hit, like wherever the Tron ride is at, like, and people like it's such a nostalgic thing that if done right, it can work.
Yeah. Except we have again, when I saw this on the timeline, I'm like, I didn't really know what to do with myself. So not only are they going to use a director from a film, I think can we really look at Pirates of the Caribbean 5 and call that a success? I mean, it made money.
But it's pirates. Like, it
was always going to.
Yeah, it's what we were saying about the live action stuff. You know, if you base it off of something that everybody knows and everybody has memories attached to it, like, it's gonna make money.
Yeah. So that wasn't good. So that's already not going in its favor. Jared Leto.
This man needs to be stopped.
How does
How does he keep... Listen, I know he won an Oscar, got nominated for an Oscar. Okay, that was a good movie, I'm not gonna lie. But, like, I feel like everything since then... nothing makes sense.
It's been a downward trajectory where we are right now, and where we are right now, I mean, you would think that after 2022 that Jared Leto's career would be in the toilet, and evidently not. if this is what's happening, because the guy is a jinx. I feel that may be a bit mean, but like every project he's on blows up. Right? Like it kind of, it's a disaster. Everything he's involved with ends up bringing everybody, he brings everybody down with him. And the thing is, he's not even doing it on purpose. It's just him. And it happens every time. And it's like, last year, I mean, talk about like embarrassment after embarrassment. Like, the guy flopped harder than anything I've ever seen, and from what I hear anyway, one of the worst films ever made in this genre of superheroes, Morbius, a film so comically incompetent, again, from what I hear. And he topped that off with the studio being convinced that its social media presence was going to manifest in more ticket sales. It did not, and so they embarrassed themselves even further. But Jared Leto particularly ended up being the butt of the joke even further, where, and I don't know if this has happened before. In the same awards season, he was nominated for a Screen Actors Guild Award and a Razzie for the same performance in House of Gucci. A performance that has been so parodied at this point, because the performance itself is a parody. It's like, again, it's that clip of like, how could you? It's a cartoon, and it's like, only Jared Leto can be nominated for that performance for a Razzie and a Screen Actors Guild. And it won the Razzie. And he won the Razzie. He's now an Academy Award winner and a Razzie Award winner. Okay.
So is Halle Berry.
And you know what? Halle Berry actually showed up, and she showed up in person, and she collected her award. Mm-hmm. Oh man, I wish I could have seen that. Is that clip on YouTube somewhere? I want to see that.
Yeah.
Okay, that seems funny, but like, good for her.
Yeah.
To do that. What was it? Was it for Catwoman or what? Oh my God. That's so funny.
We love her.
But Jared Leto is, I'm sorry, but it's like everything he touches dies.
I forgot about House of Gucci.
Did you see the movie?
No.
Yeah.
I was kind of bummed out that you guys said it was not that great. Because I was really looking forward to it.
I was too. And then I was like, well, this is boring.
Speaking of Adam Driver, I'm excited to see his new movie.
Which one?
I don't even know what it's called, but he's like somewhere in like a different dimension or like a different planet or something like that.
What's that called? Do you know?
Let me see.
It's not White Noise, is it?
No.
Just to go back here real quick while you're finding that. Yeah, the 2023 Little Mermaid is coming out, and I had forgotten about that movie, but I'm gonna be there.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be there to watch that movie. Yes, that one. Is it 65? Is that what it's called?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Cannot
if you haven't
wait.
seen that trailer, everybody go out and watch that trailer. When I think it played for us in a movie theater, I hadn't seen it. Peter told me to pay attention. I saw the trailer and I'm like, I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in. This is like my kind of movie. So, yes, that one looks exciting. That's definitely.
And it has scary dinosaurs.
Mm-hmm. Your favorite.
Oh god.
Your favorite. So I guess like the overall thing with Jared Leto being involved in that project just signals to me that yeah, that project's dead. If that thing is actually moving forward, to me it's dead on arrival. For whatever reason, it is dead on arrival. Next. Thank you, next. I'm ready to move on. It's just like it's upsetting because it's like, well, yeah. This is so avoidable. This is so avoidable, and yet you're gonna go like and like hang yourselves over this. Okay, fine. This is what you want to do? Go ahead and do that. Not my problem anyway. There'll be plenty of other fish in the sea, as they say, when it comes to movies. So I'm not gonna be too hung up about it. But like, it's just it is intellectually insulting, I would say, the idea that this is a thing that will go forward and no one can see it. Nobody involved would see it coming a mile away how bad the idea actually is. But hey, have fun getting on a cross and setting yourselves on fire. Because that's ultimately what's going to happen. Yeah. Anywho, that whole situation. So, the point is, overall, there's a lot of things out there. And as you can already see from this conversation, there's too many thoughts going through our heads at the same time to kind of like, ping pong back and forth here. But since we're on the topic of projects that have been announced, I'll tell you one that's just a shoo-in for success across the board. Although maybe not, considering how some people feel like certain legends maybe don't seem to fit the bill as praising or rewarding anymore. Well, more on that later. But John Williams is going to be having a documentary made about him, produced by the one and only Steven Spielberg. Everything about that is a win. Everything about that is a win. It's like, the man is 90 years old. How has there not already been a documentary on John Williams? What?
Yeah.
Like, that makes no sense to me. It does not compute. But anyway, thankfully, they're doing it. You know, when you reach your 90s, you're not necessarily guaranteed to be around for much longer. Sad to say. Although he and I love how in a lot of the interviews he's given on this Fableman's Awards press tour, he's determined to stay alive until at least he turns 100. So at least he has the spirit, and he has the work, and he won't stop doing that. So hopefully,
before you move on, just because it's in my head, have you seen that trailer for 80 for Brady?
Yes, I've seen that trailer thousands and thousands of times because of every time I go to a theater, it somehow is like
I actually
it's put in my face.
Granted, I hadn't been to a movie theater, but I want to see it. Like,
do you really?
That sounds so fun. Excuse me, these ladies, please.
Alexis, that trailer was so like. Everything about that trailer just like hurt my body. Like, really? You know what? I'm not gonna judge, because there are things that I see and I'm like, you know what? That looks great. Fuck everybody else. So fine. I'm willing to give you that.
I just
it's fine.
love these women and I want to support.
I'm not saying I don't like them. It's just that trailer and it almost feels like a fake movie. Like, is this
I know.
really...
It seems so fun.
Okay, you know what does seem fun to me? Then we're on the topic of trailers. Cocaine Bear.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, also, I really, really want to see Megan.
Did you not see it already? It was a lot of fun.
No.
It was a lot of fun. Look, do not go in thinking it's Malignant. No, it's not. Even though it's the same writer as, but it's like it's not. But it's so much fun. The audience I saw it with was like cackling in moments. It's a good movie, and I'm happy to see that it's been getting the success that I think it deserves. And I love that moment in the red carpet at the Golden Globes where like they asked Jamie Lee Curtis about like who would be like the Scream Queen of 2023, and she was like. Basically saying, well, I think it's already been decided it's Megan. And she was like, she has made her voice heard as she walks away from the reporter on the red carpet. So that's some pretty high praise already in and of itself. In just like the first like week or two of the new year.
Yeah.
And then also there was this wonderful like tweet somebody did about like, what if they did, you know, in the 2000s, there was this franchise, Aliens versus Predator. What if we did, what was it? Megan versus Gabriel from Malignant? Oh my God.
You know what movie was playing here? And I really wanted to go see it, but I also didn't want to go by myself. They were playing, I don't know if you ever saw the trailer, and I don't know why they were playing this, but it was a Grinch movie, but a horror one.
Was that real? Because I remember seeing images about that, but like they were actually, it's a real movie.
It was playing at Harkins.
Really?
Yes.
What was it called?
Oof. It was something with like the Grinch.
Did you see it?
No, because nobody wanted to go with me, and I didn't want to.
I would have gone with you.
But you don't live here.
I didn't hear you say, "Hey, Alexis, come drive up."
I ask you guys all the time.
Yes, but that's true. Fair, but maybe you never know. I mean, how long is it? 4 hours?
Yeah.
That's a bit of a drive.
But it's the Grinch.
What was it called? What was it called?
It was oh my god. I don't remember. What something that they say in the movie.
So,
I don't remember. But yeah, I saw it on there and it was on there for like maybe a week, 2 weeks, maybe all of December actually. But yeah, that was one that
the mean one?
Yes, uh-huh.
The mean one. Okay. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't expect this to get good reviews, but I would be curious to see it.
But it was like I feel like it would have been a lot of fun, or just like what the fuck are we watching type of thing.
The mean one. I wonder if there's a place I could see it online. Oh boy. We are not equipped for this level of bad. Oh geez. Anywho, I would have totally gone to see that because that just seems like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I wish this was playing somewhere nearby because, yeah. So this isn't like The Grinch. It's just like I guess a ripoff of The Grinch.
Yeah.
Which I guess it makes sense.
But I just found it surprising that they were playing it at Harkins.
Flip Cobbler, who is the writer for the script, did you see what they did? What they wrote in the past? It's funny because I was on Letterboxd right now and I was reading some of the reviews, and one of the people said, "You'll never guess what this person was known for writing before this: The Hunchback of Notre Dame 2, Pocahontas 2, Beauty and the Beast: The Enchanted Christmas, and The Lion King 2: Simba's Pride."
Interesting.
That's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, you know what? I'd give it a whirl.
Yeah, I would
no,
too.
the fuck not.
Yeah.
I would have totally gone to go see it with you. And there are like plenty of other ones that, I mean, they're not coming to my head immediately, but there are plenty of other ones that are coming out at some point. But like, you know, it's just like these first 2 months, especially these last 2 years, have felt like no one's wanted to release much of anything really. Maybe because this is where the Oscar season is at and everybody's like paying attention to those movies.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, and which, I mean, I guess, but like a lot of people don't even care anymore what the Oscars think or do. So it's like, what's even the point? But at least for me anyway, it gives me an opportunity to like catch up on a lot of the stuff that I missed from last year. Like, for instance, the 99th film I mentioned earlier in the podcast that I logged just before we signed on here was called Embrace the Panda, The Making of Turning Red. It took me this long to actually see it.
Oh my god.
I know.
You just saw it?
I just saw it like today.
It
was so good.
I literally cried so much.
Me too.
It's so...
Yes. Now you're crying. That's such a good, like, you know, and Disney Plus, it should be commended that it has a really wonderful library of documentary stuff, but it also has its fair share of like clunkers in documentary. And I feel like if you watch any of like the
Marvel,
the Chloe Zhao one, notwithstanding, because she at least keeps things interesting, all the other ones are like, there's like nothing. The only one I would say is Director by Night, which is the one on the making of Werewolf by Night, but not really, because it's Director by Night is actually about Michael Giacchino and his background, and that he's always wanted to be a filmmaker, and half of the movie is like the movies that he made on a Super 8 camera back in the 80s. And it's directed by his brother.
Wow.
And so they go back home. They go through all this collection. Their parents are included. And it's just like, you get to know so much more about Michael Giacchino, who I feel like we all know in a way because of his contribution to film is like unparalleled, and just like how quickly he's like rise to the top of his game as far as a composer. He has written some of the most memorable pieces of music that I've ever like been involved in movies, period. But after all, and you know what, I respect it when it comes to him. Like, hey, you got to know somebody to get, you know, a project like this. But Kevin Feige, if there's one good thing you did last year, was having the good sense to give Michael Giacchino a project to do. And really, like, it is presented on Disney Plus anyway as like a Marvel special presentation. But it's really a short movie. It's a short film. That's how he approached it. And like, he had directed smaller stuff in the past, including his own home movies, obviously. But like, this stuff is his first, you would say, feature debut. And did you ever see Werewolf by Night?
No.
Okay, if you see it, it is incredible. The direction is perfect. It's so good. It's so good. And just seeing, you know, this journey was just so nice. So Directed by Night is another one of the films I recently saw, and I think that and the Chloe Zhao one are so separated from the other Marvel behind the scenes because they don't get into anything really remotely interesting. They're just like, hey, I'm an actor. You know me, guys, and here I am acting. Okay, now here I am acting again. It's like, it's boring. However, oh my goodness, Embrace the Panda. It really just reminded me. And again, we dove into this in the beginning part of the podcast about how like a lot of those films didn't get a fair shake. Wow, was Turning Red really just like swept under the rug? Because this like the key creative team were all women.
All women.
That never happens.
Ever. Ever.
And no one cared. No one cared. And it was like, looking back on it, Turning Red. Maybe it's a spoiler to say. Maybe it's not all that surprising. Turning Red is going to be in my top 20 of 2022.
It's so good.
It's an incredible film. It's one of the better Pixar films in so many years. And for me anyway, you know, part of like what makes me have a kinship with it, not because like, I mean, I was a teenage girl or whatever, I was a you know, a Canadian or an Asian living in Canada or Toronto or whatever. I wasn't any of those things, but you know what I was into? Not super duper into it, but yes, I was into anime. But the fact that it's like so like
you can relate to it because,
well, we grew up in that time.
Yeah, we
2000s.
all went through similar things. We all were awkward. We all had obsessions, weird obsessions. We all had crushes. We all went through body stuff, like changes. You know, we all have family struggles. You know, we can connect to it in like a human way. Isn't
it funny how universal you just described this film to be, and yet certain people literally like were out and proud with because like, it's not about me, so I can't connect to this movie.
Because it talked about pads.
Oh my. The point is, what I really appreciate about Embrace the Panda is that it really gave, while there was plenty, no, you know what makes it a great documentary is that it very much is almost entirely talking about how the story came about, why everything on screen is there, and even from the smallest, design details to the larger themes and arcs, which is something Marvel can't do in their films, much less their documentaries. Okay, but here it's appreciated because it's on display, but it's also intertwined with the where these creative women making this movie are at in their own lives.
Mm-hmm.
At the moment, seeing them become moms for the first time, or seeing them, being older moms, or it's all while obviously this era of the pandemic. So it was great.
All the while acknowledging that this has never happened before.
Mm-hmm.
That a group of women are making a Pixar movie, a Disney movie.
Yeah.
And they're the leads. They're, the bosses. They're, that's insane. I loved it so much.
Yeah. Yeah. I if you haven't seen it, people who are out there listening, go and see it. And the same goes with Directed by Night. For those of you who haven't seen Werewolf by Night, go watch that. It's so good too. But yeah. Real quick, I don't want to dwell too much on these. But they're both really good. I saw both Decision to Leave and Argentina 1985. Both of those are international films that are going to be nominated for awards. Argentina 1985 has already won. It won the Golden Globe for Best International Film, and it's on Prime Video. And I don't really know too much about the history of the politics in South America, but it is wild. So
I know. I feel like every time I watch a movie about it, you're just like, wait, what the heck?
Yeah. So like they're in the movie Argentina 1985. They're like barely out of like a fascist regime after the military took power, and now this is the first ever big, like the first trial of its kind since the Nuremberg trials for the Nazis after World War II. So it was a really good movie.
I want to see it.
So you should see it. I think it's definitely worth a watch. And then Decision to Leave by Park Chan-wook. This is such an amazing, weird love story. So this is also a detective story. Takes place in South Korea. The mystery, it really not is about a mystery. It's a love story about these two people. It's like the cop and the suspect. And the more time they spend with each other, the tension there, and it's really one of the more romantic movies ever made. But it's also it packaged in like Park Chan-wook's own style, of course. Both of these movies are among the best movies of the year, and this is why I always say, go outside of the country, go outside of the West to find movies out there, because between Decision to Leave, Argentina 1985. The German remake of All Quiet on the Western Front, RRR. Again, just truly incredible work that has been made. And again, look at there was someone had posted about like the last 4 winners of the Best International Feature Award. You've got Parasite, Roma, Another Round, and Drive My Car. And I know I maybe haven't seen some of those films, but like personally, those have been some of my favorite films of the last few years. So the international circuit is getting a lot of attention, and it's been getting more attention at the Academy overall, because it usually is like one big international film that ends up being like included some way, somehow. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. I have to ask you though, how do you feel? I also don't even know if you've seen any of these movies. How do you feel about this year's award season? Have you seen any of these films? And the ones that, to be clear, so there's Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Banshees of Inisherin, The Fabelmans, Tar. I know you've seen Top Gun Maverick. That one you have seen. You've seen Elvis, I'm sure, right? But some of the other films that are involved include Avatar: The Way of Water, RRR, Glass Onion, which you have seen. Any of the ones that I haven't already indicated you've seen? That's true. The Whale is there. Yes, The Whale is there. You haven't seen any of these movies?
No.
Okay. Then you really don't care then.
I mean, I do. Like, I want to see these movies, but for reasons we have mentioned before, I just haven't seen them.
Well, it's like, for me, it's like every year I see a lot more of the contenders. And I think this year is the first year ever where I've seen all of them. I've seen all of them, and I can tell you like my thoughts on it real quick. The butt of the no, it's not the butt of the joke. I want to be clear because I want to be careful how I speak about this because the 3 films in this awards season that have gender pronouns in their titles. One gender, if we're being real, they all point to one gender, and they're all bombing in terms of awards nominations when they were assumed to get a lot. One was She Said, which was the film. It's basically Spotlight, but with Harvey Weinstein. Then is Women Talking, which is about these like not pioneer.
Yeah, like I've seen the trailer.
Okay, and then there's it's hard to describe too. And then there's also The Woman King. And all 3 of those films,
no. Anyway,
they're basically, they've gotten some nominations here and there, but my controversial take is I don't think those 3 movies are the best films, but I know there's this whole thing going on where, and by the way, Alexis, just get ready because there's a rant I'm going to unleash, but that's not even here. It's just like the appetizer for it. But there are no women being nominated for Best Director this year, anywhere. And there will be no woman nominated for Best Director come Tuesday for when they announce it. And I understand that's shitty, and I understand that's a bad look. But like, a lot of the people who are complaining about that are like, well, what about Sarah Polley for directing Women Talking? Clearly, everybody sees something in that movie that I don't. I've seen Women Talking. And I think it is aggressively fine. Like, fine. Not bad, not particularly great, but just in that middle zone. And if I feel like a jackass saying that and to be clear, I'm a guy, so maybe there is something to be said about that, and maybe my opinion not meaning as much as, women. I don't even know if that's the thing, but the thing is, I don't particularly feel that movie warrants any kind of meaningful awards consideration. That being said, there are plenty of people who feel the same way about any number of other films, myself included, with any of the other years. So it's fair. That always is going to happen. But it's like, I get it, but I also get annoyed by it because like I get that we should like look for more inclusion, but it's like, when the output is so clearly not on the same level as the other nominees or potential nominees, the idea that we need to make room for at least one of the female directors to get in there over someone who I think universally is looked at as making a far superior movie, it comes to a place where it feels even more inauthentic than sometimes the overall Academy can feel with, a lot of the realities that are tied with them. And then at the same time, I'm like, well, the last 2 years, granted, of course, there were like the second or third or fourth, whatever it was, but we had 2 years in a row where women won Director of the Year. Jane Campion won for Power of the Dog, and then the year before that was Chloe Zhao for Nomadland, and that happened not just at the Oscars but also at the Golden Globes, and
it didn't feel like a pity win.
Those didn't feel like pity wins.
Yeah.
No, they were like legit real wins. So it's like, I think by that even happening, there's been substantive changes even in the last few years. The thing is this. I feel like throughout awards season, every year, there are people who single out the Golden Globe Awards as being uniquely corrupt and hideous and removed from the overall branches.
Mm-hmm.
Forgive me if I get into some like jargon here or like lingo as far as like this world is concerned, but I have to make this case. A lot of the issues that people have with the HFPA, the people who run the Golden Globes as an organization, are the same issues that exist at all the other circuits. They're there to begin with. Like, yeah. I'm sorry, like, a lot of people like calling the Golden Globes corrupt. You know, the big joke was like they nominate the movies from stars they want at their party. Yes, it can be that way, and years and years ago, it was very overtly that way with The Tourist, the Johnny Depp film that was so infamous, where even Ricky Gervais was like, "What the fuck are you doing here?" in this opening monologue. That was what the Globes were out and proud for doing it, but I always respected them because they knew what they were and they never hid it a secret, whereas everybody else hides behind this like veil of authority when really deep down, when you think about and look at all of the ways films even get to the nominations board or even to the actual wins, I don't understand how you're somebody that covers the awards season and doesn't point out the hypocrisy. How can you say that the HFPA is any more corrupt than the Oscars? You want examples? Okay, well, you have a director's branch that consistently snubs actor-turned-directors because it is a very well open secret that the director's branch do not take well to actors trying to become directors, as in they should stay in their lane. Mm-hmm. What is an example of this? Bradley Cooper was not nominated for Best Director for A Star is Born. He probably should have been. Mm-hmm. Ben Affleck was not directed for Argo when he was winning everywhere else and won Best Picture as a result of that. So that was ridiculous, you know? The documentary branch are fucking idiots, where they're like, I'm sorry that's rude, but like it is, and this is where it gets grating. The Oscar pundits themselves say this every year. We all know that their branch, they every year snub the film they perceive to be in first place. Because Won't You Be My Neighbor was the most successful documentary film of all time. And it was snubbed largely because, well, it was too successful. The same, and again, different branches, but you see the same patterns. Yeah. In the visual effects branch, they were outraged that Ex Machina from 2015 won visual effects because it was like, it wasn't so obviously a visual effects movie. And so what did they do? They rewrote the rules to have that in a way that in the future years, there was a bias toward bigger films, which is why you always see the Jurassic World movies in there. The same Academy that nominated movies like Bohemian Rhapsody, Joker, anything by Adam McKay. Don't Look Up, which is nominated just last year. The same Academy that went with Coda over literally anything else last year. This is where it bothers me. It's like, hey, look, where I've always defended the HFPA is that they know how to run a fucking award show. And the Oscars don't know how to do an award show to save their lives. Every year, it's a fucking disaster. Last year was there was a whole bunch of things. It wasn't just a fucking slap. That was out of their control. But the biggest is, like, they fell flat on their face when they pissed everybody off and they said, you know what, we're going to cut 8 categories out of the award show to save time. And you know what? It was the single longest Oscars broadcast since I've been watching it. 4.5 hours long. It was even longer. It wasn't a whole hour longer than the previous year. Like, they're bad. And the thing is, they waste so much time at the Oscars with like SNL like comedy sketches that nobody likes and nobody finds funny. And you know what the Globes do? They don't even bother with that.
Yeah.
They don't waste. You know what? If you watch the Globes, and I know you watched some of them, and thankfully you skipped the horrible host and monologue, but after he was out of the way with it was fine. The Globes were mostly just presenting awards and people making wonderful speeches.
Yeah.
And if I may, I want to read off, because I think they've gotten so much better at the people they've been awarding. And this year, I think, was an extraordinary...
It was so good.
It was an extraordinary list of winners. Just on the film side, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio won animated feature. Not To, the song from RRR. Whoever would have guessed that would have stood a chance with them. It won best song over people like Taylor Swift and Rihanna and The Weeknd.
Good for them.
And Lady Gaga. Good for them. Good for them. Best score, Justin Hurwitz collected his 4th Golden Globe for writing the music for Babylon. He previously won for First Man, La La Land, and Whiplash. No one's going to argue with that. That was a great win. Of course, Cate Blanchett is amazing in Tar. I've seen Tar, and I can speak for the fact that if that were to win Best Actor at the Academy Awards, I think it's rightfully deserved. I'd still be upset because I prefer somebody else to win, but she deserves that award if she were to win it, and she deserved it here. And granted, you can make this case here, and maybe I'll circle back to Angela Bassett, but that was surprising and that was interesting to see, and that was different. At least it was a different thing. That was the thing about the Globes, and the thing about these people in general that I think dismiss the Globes too much is the Globes at least indulge us with different winners, whereas everybody else just wants to copy the Oscars or predict where the Oscars are going. Here, they were like, you know what? Why don't we just pick the people we like? And it makes for an interesting season when you have different winners, you know? And so nobody was expecting Angela Bassett, but of course, as soon as she wins, everybody's predicting her. And you know what other organization irks me that they somehow end up getting a pass for some of the similar practices they do is the Critics' Choice Awards, which were just, last Sunday. They're so shameless because last year they gave Kristen Stewart every award for Best Actress as she rightfully deserved it. But you know what? They didn't give her, when it came to the actual ceremony of the Critics' Choice Awards, they didn't give her Best Actress. Why? Because just a week before, the Screen Actors Guild Awards, they were actually first last year because of the whole Globes being canceled for a year situation. So they were first last year, the SAG Awards. And they gave Jessica Chastain the award for Best Actress, not Kristen Stewart. So in an attempt for the organization to come off as if they're important in the awards season, they went against what we all knew was their pick, considering that Kristen Stewart all over the country won the critics' prizes. And then they gave it to Jessica Chastain. And then guess what happened? Jessica Chastain ended up being the frontrunner at that point, and then she won the Oscar. It was game over. The critics stabbed Kristen Stewart in the back, and she should have an Oscar right now, and she doesn't, for Spencer. So, how is that any more egregious than what the Globes have done in the past? How are any of the tendencies that the Oscar voters exhibit every year, how is that any worse than what the Globes have done in the past? I really question the people who, and it annoys me because the Globes did such a good job of picking winners this year, and there were a lot of pundits that I liked, like Perry Nemiroff, that were like laughing, like saying, why are we even talking about them? Like, what does that award in their hand even mean?
No.
And it's like, what does any award even mean, girl? Like, honestly. But she doesn't feel that way. She obviously feels that all the other awards, like Critics' Choice or SAG or Oscars, mean something, whereas the Globes don't, even though they all have the same practices. Now, I want to be clear. Did the Globes deserve to be canceled for a year for what happened? Yes, because that controversy was bad. Them not having a single black member in their group is bad. When they're supposed to be an international organization, that was terrible. And they deserve what they got. But no one wants to talk about what they did to change themselves. Well, they used to be a voting body of like 80 people. They added in over 100 new voters this year. 100 new voters. not all of color, but I would say mostly of color from different parts of the country. I mean, of the world, I should say. And they're now, I think, considered a nonprofit organization. They've done a lot. And even on top of that, on top of all of that, they hired a host. How could they not and they allowed him to say the things that he said about them in a way that came off as less of a roast and more of an effigy. Like they allowed him to basically destroy the name of their organization even further. And it wasn't even funny. I personally don't think it was funny.
It was not funny.
I feel they've done enough at least to justify this year coming back. And you know what? I hate that the year the Globes were canceled. The Globes were literally the only people to recognize West Side Story last year, because they still had awards last year, but they weren't televised. But they gave West Side Story Best Picture Musical and Comedy last year. But guess what? It didn't really happen because we didn't really see it. Of course, of all the years, that's the one where that would happen. And, going back to like what, Ke Huy Quan, of course, for Everything Everywhere, Best Supporting Actor. Austin Butler won for Best Actor in Elvis for the drama. I mean, yes, Fraser wasn't probably going to win here because of past stuff that happened, but it was nice to see Butler be up there. Mm-hmm. The thing is, I think it's nice to see people go up and get an award that probably are not going to win the actual Oscar. That way, to give them a chance to get some recognition.
Yeah,
like Everything Everywhere All at Once not winning the overall picture or screenplay or director here, I don't think means all that much, because I feel like there's a great chance it's going to win all three of those things at the actual Oscars. I don't think it's a slam dunk yet.
Yeah.
But there's a good chance it might win all three of those. And with the Globes, they went with Steven Spielberg and then with Martin McDonagh, both people who consistently turn in great work, but are hardly ever given a moment to be recognized for what they've given. Like, for example, last cycle, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri wasn't even like, it was considered like a contender, but like they snubbed Martin McDonagh for director. Okay. That was a whole different thing, but like, I recognize that like the Spielberg movie, The Fabelmans, is not necessarily like a front runner to win any longer. I think it still has a shot, depending on if certain things go a different direction. But like for me, I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm just so happy I at least got what happened at the Globes. Like, it winning director, particularly, and picture, I was able to see him finally go up on that stage and get an award for a movie he made. Anywhere. I would have last year if they didn't have a West Side Story, but like the thing is, I finally got to see him collect something that I feel he is deserving of over other people who are definitely deserving. It probably won't get repeated at the Oscars, but you know what? I'm fine with it. I'm fine with these awards groups picking different winners. That's why I was like, you know what? They were the first awards show of the season, and they picked both Fabelmans and Banshees of Inisherin, which I don't think is a secret at this point. I think what makes it even more sweeter to me, they're among my favorite movies of the year. You know what else is also my favorite movie of the year? Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. And if it ends up winning the awards that it may in fact win at the Oscars, this would go down as easily for me my favorite awards season in these 10 years that I've been watching it, because like basically 3 of my favorite films of the year were like big winners overall. And I'm a fan of people sharing the love around when it comes to like, I think the level of output that we're having here. Like, I'm going to say, like, I don't think there's even an outright bad movie like there have been in other years. Like, do you remember that Joker got 11 nominations?
Oh my god. That's so many. That's way too many.
Joker, it got more nominations than the Martin Scorsese movie out that year, The Irishman. Joker got 11 nominations, and it won 2. It won score, and it won actor.
The fact that it...
When Heath Ledger didn't even win actor.
Oh my god.
And Robert Pattinson sure as hell is not going to get any love this year.
Oh
the Batman is not going to get much love. The Batman overall.
I know I haven't seen any of the other movies, but Batman is easily like my favorite movie of the year.
Oh my god, it's so good.
The fact that it's not getting anything. Oh my god. Are you joking?
I want to shout out, though, the Gold Derby Awards. Now, Gold Derby is known as like the premier website for all of the people who like to predict these awards, to go and have a community and like place their predictions. But they also give out their own, like, they've been doing it for like 20 some years now, and they also do their own nominations. They're the only people to nominate the Batman for Best Picture. The only people for Best Picture. That movie has gotten... It pisses me off, too, because, like, it's gotten so left behind where so many other blockbusters have actually broken through. The Producers Guild of America included Black Panther Wakanda Forever in their top 10.
Please. Oh my god.
And there are people who are thinking because, and the producers were the only ones to do this, there are people right now who have Wakanda Forever in their Oscar predictions for getting a Best Picture nomination because of that. And we could see and you know what? I would actually respect it in this sense. Between Wakanda Forever, Top Gun Maverick, and Avatar, that's like 3 big sequels, 3 big blockbusters nominated for Best Picture in 1 year, when at best they only get 1. So in that way, I'll respect it. Where I won't respect it is, and I don't mean to stomp all over Wakanda Forever, because I enjoyed the film.
I did too, but
come on. The Batman? What are you doing? Like, luckily, it looks like at the very least, Greg Fraser, the director of photography, is going to get nominated for cinematography. It should win, if we're being honest, but like, hopefully, fingers crossed, he gets the nomination. But you know who's not going to be included in nominations? Michael Giacchino. For score, in case people forgot that he wrote the amazing score to that movie, which is basically an anthem at this point. I can hum it like all day long. What the hell?
And like, I get like the actors aren't probably gonna get nominated. I don't know. Sure. I just want something.
Yeah, but you know, the actors for Top Gun and Avatar are not gonna get nominated, and they're gonna be included.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I just wish that people would talk about it more.
Yes.
It
like,
deserves it.
The Batman should be treated like Dune was last year.
Yes.
It's that level of quality. It really is to me. And it's like it getting left behind in this conversation is weird.
It is.
Especially when like Batman movies have done so well in the past with these people. Like, yeah, The Dark Knight got all the nominations, didn't win anything, I don't think, but it got those nominations. And well, I guess
if
Joker getting 11 nominations. 11 nominations.
Oh my goodness. How ridiculous. I can't. And you know what? I remember thinking also, like, when I saw this movie, but it also can't even be like an excuse, because anywhere, everywhere, all the time, whatever.
You mean Everything Everywhere All at Once?
Came out around like the same time.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, it's not obviously being forgotten.
No.
But when Batman came out, I'm like this needs to be nominated for I don't know what, anything, but it's not going to be because it's so far out.
It's also strange because Everything Everywhere All at Once is not at all the kind of movie the Oscars like or go for usually. Batman is more along with what they usually nominate, but Everything Everywhere is not at all. So the fact that it's like this powerful, I mean, again, I it did mention the Critics' Choice Awards. It swept the Critics' Choice Awards a few days ago. It got Best Picture. It got Best Director for Daniel Kwan and Daniel Shiner. It got Best Supporting Actor for Ki Kwan. It even got Best Editing and Best Screenplay. So the critics loved this movie. And by the way, while we're on the critics, at least this is why I love them getting different winners, because we got to see Brendan Fraser go up there and collect his award for Best Actor for The Whale. And he's just a big old teddy bear. And like, I don't think I've ever rooted for anyone more to get an Oscar than him. And the performance speaks for itself. Yes. Deserves. No question about it. Like, that is the definition of an actor putting his all into a performance, and that's what he did. And he's also a guy that's well overdue. And what's also really heartwarming about this award season is that it's filled with winners and potential winners who are overdue. Not just Fraser, but then also both Michelle Yeoh and Ki Hee Kwan. Ki Hee Kwan's speech at the Globes made me tear up.
All of them.
All of the speeches were so good.
Yes. Honestly, even Jennifer Coolidge, I was like... Oh.
I was surprised, right? Like, you know, Jennifer Coolidge is so hilarious and everything. I appreciate her existence, don't get me wrong. And she's always funny. But even her speech when she won... Yeah, because she's also in line with that kind of actor that's just been overdue and neglected. Her collecting the award for The White Lotus. And then, like, you know, basically, like, complimenting I believe it's Mike White, the person behind the show, and then like him, obviously he was really drunk at that point, and when you're drunk you get emotional, but he was like literally like tearing up on live TV because of the nice things that she was saying about him on stage. And it was just like, oh my god, it was a really like heartwarming night all around. Yeah. You know, it was, these speeches are ultimately, even like the Spielberg, him saying like, hey, you know what, like I've been hiding from this story my whole life. I literally have been, and it took me this long to finally process what I went through, and to say that it's not easy being a kid. It's not easy also being thought of this success story, and no one really knows who you are until you're finally ready to say that. And it was just really empowering, and you can tell for him, it was really important as well. Like, he's a guy I think people take for granted so often and for so long. Yes, he's one of the more noteworthy filmmakers that ever was. I understand if people feel like when they watch The Fabelmans, and I know I've been saying this every podcast because I see two different camps here. People who watch the film and like are absolutely in love with it and relate to it and see themselves in it and why they love movies and the power of them. And then I also see people who watch the film and they're like, it was nice, okay, but I have problems with Michelle Williams' performance. It seemed a bit cartoonish or over the top. I have problems with I guess the family life being a part of it, and I guess I wanted to see more of the movie and how
That's so dumb.
I know, like I'm really curious to see how you guys feel about it, because like in general, I think it's a well-liked movie. I think it's liked enough that it's gotten all the nominations and wins that it's gotten. Kyle liked the film for what, and Peter liked the movie as well, but he had his own issue with it, obviously. It was on the podcast. And then for me, it's like I what's it called? I've had my own journey with the film. It's like where I saw it the first time, I liked it. It was great. Didn't love it until the second or third time, and then of course, you know, the whole thing went off from there. But like, to me, to see my favorite director finally win something, I think it felt really, and I want to, there was a detail I didn't mention. That day, well, it was, I can't even tell you the day, it was January 10th, it was a Tuesday. That day that he won, earlier in my day job, in language arts, because I teach in my day job, fourth graders that day, that whole week anyway. the story of the week, as we call it, felt very much like social studies. And so that's up my alley for sure.
Mm-hmm.
The story was about the life of Abraham Lincoln. It was about the life of Abraham Lincoln. And if people are like not clicking that connection, that's where all this came from. That's where Lincoln, directed by Steven Spielberg, was the first movie that got me interested in basically this whole world.
Mm-hmm.
All of it. Not just particularly the awards circuit aspect of it, but just generally. So that was the first movie I was so passionate about as like a young adult and wanting to like know much more about it. And it was the first movie that got me into the awards. And guess what? That was 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That was 10 years ago. And so it felt weirdly enough like it was a full circle moment, you know, in a way where it's like, hey, the guy that made a movie about Lincoln that sparked this passion in movies and then like the awards, 10 years later, wins an award for a movie he's made on the day that I teach about Lincoln. That's like, okay, that's too perfect. And I love it. And, you know what was hilarious though? And I'm sure you could guess this a mile away. You have no idea how into it I got while reading that story to them. I was like so passionate about it. And like, I was even like taking stops. I didn't even care what was on like the directions. I was doing my own thing. I was like stopping because in the story, they're fourth graders, keep in mind. There were like direct quotes from Abraham Lincoln and like they spoke differently back then. So I like had to like stop and like explain to them like what he's saying there. Mm-hmm. And thankfully they got a lot of it. They were smarter kids. But it was like I was like I had to like catch myself for a moment there. Like I was like getting really passionate about it. And it was like, oh man, I was like Lydia Tarr in Tar. Because it was like her character, Cate Blanchett's character in that movie is so into like her orchestra. And there's like a scene where she's just like doing all this and she's like stopping herself and she's like feeling every sound of it. It was so nice. But overall, the night was filled with such wonderful speeches. It was just great to see the Banshees of Inisherin be recognized as well. You haven't seen that movie, I imagine, but that's such a weird, quirky film in and of itself, but then also it's just so weirdly profound because it's about people who lose touch with each other after being friends for so long. And I know for me, I'm not thinking of the same person you might be thinking, because ultimately the ending is not as definitive as you would think it would be from the beginning part of the movie. But like, I definitely saw myself in some of the relationships and friendships that I've had in my life put up on the screen like that in a really interesting way, and what it had to say about it. Now that's the film side of it. Like you mentioned Jennifer Coolidge. I was so happy to see her win, and just people loving her in general. I think she's amazing and she's great on stage. She's hilarious and emotional at the same time. But least we forget some of the other winners, which were first of all, Abbott Elementary. Have you seen Abbott?
No, but I've heard a lot about it. My brother keeps telling me to watch it.
Again, talk about things coming full circle. This is the year where I've decided that I want to pursue teaching for my career. And guess what comes out? A comedy mockumentary show about teachers that work at a low-income school. And a lot of the humor is like, yeah, I think I've literally lived this. I've lived through this exact thing. And I love all the cast, and to see them win.
Mm-hmm. They won big, too.
They won big. It was Tyler Williams. He won. So did Quinta. She won for her acting, because she's like Dan Levy in Schitt's Creek, where she's like the main character and then also the main writer of the show, and the one who pitched it. And I love how she, and then also Mike White, who won for The White Lotus, when they were accepting their award, they were like, by the way, I see all you guys in the audience that passed on this project. and they were like rubbing the award in their faces. That was nice to see.
That's funny.
What was another nice speech, though? Actually kind of like powerful in a way that I wasn't expecting. Did you see Ryan Murphy's speech?
I thought about you guys that whole time because I literally was like, they probably are hating all of this.
I don't hate Ryan Murphy. I don't hate Ryan Murphy. Peter hates Ryan Murphy.
Okay.
But I
know some of you did, and I was like,
I've never hated Ryan Murphy. I'll admit to it. I loved Glee.
I love Glee.
I love Glee. It's like I'm not mad about it because like I feel like Glee was a big show for me back when it was on.
Glee literally.
Yeah.
I mean, say what you want about the show, but Glee opened up the doors for a lot of things.
Yes, and I think I agree with you completely. That's why I never saw how it ended, but like for me, I think I dropped off the show after the Corey Monteith episode. That was
did.
Yeah, but that's kind of how you would expect it to be. But I loved the show. I never really got too much into any of the projects that Ryan has, produced.
I love the Versace one.
The Versace
he did
ones,
the O.J. Simpson one too, right?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that one was good.
Betty and Joan, right? Is that what it was? Betty with Susan Sarandon and was it Jessica Lange and Susan Sarandon? He's done a lot of shows.
I know.
He just had a big hit last year with Dahmer.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, he won. He was given the Carol Burnett Award, which has been given to people for excellence in television, like Ellen DeGeneres and Carol Burnett and other people before her. But like, and you may think that Ryan's a bit young for like,
but he's done so much.
But I think the work speaks for itself, and Pose with and you had freaking
American Horror Story. I mean, come on.
You had what's his name go out there and like introduce him. I think what was his name? Billy Porter.
Billy Porter.
He's so he's such an interesting person. He actually, I mentioned in the last podcast, I watched like a Mariah Carey like Christmas special. Mm-hmm. He had a performance there, Billy Porter, of. I need to go look it up, but he was so good. He was such a great performer. But you know what I loved about that speech? It really wasn't about himself.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like he fully put the spotlight on somebody that he took that won last year, but didn't get a chance to do anything.
I think the first openly trans actress to win a Golden Globe ever, and it was overshadowed because it wasn't televised, and so. But it wasn't just her. It's like all of the people who he's worked with, mostly LGBTQ, basically were like going into their history and how, and it was just a whole, you got I don't really know Ryan Murphy all that well, but what I so appreciate about that speech was, it was about himself, but it wasn't really in that, like,
yeah.
These were careers who he's had a hand in promoting, and he's a trailblazer because he didn't have these things. He didn't have these people to look up to when he needed it as a young boy, and because of his work, a whole new generation of young LGBTQ people can look up to all of these performances and see such power and humanity behind them and reverence behind them in a way that wouldn't be possible if not for Ryan Murphy. Glee's a big part of it, but so are the other shows. But he and Glee are, I would say, key in changing the hearts and minds of a lot of people in the time that it was airing.
I agree. Like, Glee was so big. And again, say what you want about the show. It's a show about people in high school being losers or seen as losers, wanting to be in Glee Club, but it's also about a group of people that don't belong together that become family, and most of them were being bullied, but each for individual reasons, and it opened the doors for a lot of things. Like I remember, like when it was airing, like you know, the conversations around the show and just everything that came after that. Like, Glee was such a game changer.
Yeah. And 10 years later, with that speech that Ryan Murphy gave, it's in moments like that it really reminds you that maybe more on the lesser end of it, yes, you're reminded of the power that, you know, movies and TV can have on the world, but more importantly than that is in the midst of so much bleakness that we see on a day-to-day basis these last few years. It's a reminder of how far we've come in just a short amount of time and how further we can go in an even shorter amount of time in the future if we're allowed to have that time. It was just really hopeful and optimistic. And you could see for the people who were in attendance, like Bill Porter or Matt Bomer in particular, who he shouted out in his speech, they were just like, even though they hit it rather well, you could see the emotion in their faces. Like the power of this moment can't really be overstated, I would say. So yeah, great speeches. And then to top it off, the surprise of the night, even though I believe the individual drama awards for acting went in different directions. I think one went to Ozark, and I forget which other one it went to, but House of the Dragon winning Best Drama Series in its first year.
They literally were like, what? What's happening?
There were 3 of them there. Of the whole cast, there were just 3 of them there.
I saw a tweet that was like 3 people from House of the Dragon attended the Golden Globes while Matt was in Mexico. Please. And you know what? I thought wasn't what's his name? The dad, the king, wasn't he nominated as well?
Paddy Considine?
Yeah. No,
he wasn't nominated. But I remember hearing that he did get nominated somewhere, right?
Yeah, that's what I thought. Because I know I mean, maybe it wasn't this, but maybe it was the Emmys. I don't know, but I remember seeing something that the King and Emma Darcy got nominated, and not Olivia Cook.
Yeah.
But
all I know is HBO better roll out the fucking awards campaign, because I better see all those people's names included. I want to see Olivia Cook, Emma Darcy, what's her name? Ali Alcock, is it? And of course, Matt Damon, and most importantly of all, Paddy Considine. We better see those people get the right awards campaigns for sure. But it really just, I feel, kind of make the statement that across the board, TV and movies, I can't think of a better year. I can't think of a better year when both of them.
Agree with,
which one?
Be controversial, is the Zendaya win.
Thank you for reminding me. That's the one I blocked out. That's the one I blocked out because she didn't just win there, she also went to win that same award at the Critics' Choice a week later, and I'm like, we don't need to be awarding Zendaya all the time. I'm sorry. I don't hate Zendaya. I like Zendaya a lot. I haven't seen Euphoria, so I can't speak to her performance in that show. But I mean, you're telling me that you couldn't have given it to, I don't know. Imelda Stanton isn't somebody who I think of as one that's been recognized all that often. Why not give it to her for The Crown? And I think you and I maybe are in the minority, Alexis, where we actually really liked season 5, because a lot of people you've seen. I've seen some people describe the season as like meh or soft. I think
people were just expecting to see a certain thing, or were expecting it this season. Yeah. I didn't think that it was going to happen this season at all. I would have been very surprised if we would have seen it.
I feel like both things can be true at the same time. I think you and I are on the same page that it wasn't as good as season 4. What can be really at this point, because that season was amazing. But was it a great season of The Crown? Yes, it was. It was amazing. There was, I remember specific, like the tampon episode.
Oh, yeah.
So good.
Oh, God. I and you know what? When I was watching it, I completely forgot about that because I knew that had happened.
Right. And
then it was happening, and I was like, "Oh no, no!" Oh, also, did you see? Because Prince Harry has been doing interviews for the book release that he had. Did you see that they talked about The Crown? I forgot which host it was.
You shared that clip with me. I think he was talking with either I think it was Stephen Colbert, wasn't it?
Yes.
Was it Stephen Colbert? Yeah. And he was asked if he watches The Crown. And he was going on this answer of like, well, this here and that there. But yeah, I watched it. Because I guess like...
And that if he facts...
He fact checks to see if it is...
That's funny. I would be doing the same thing.
You know, The Crown's an amazing series. I mentioned it to you, but maybe the listeners may not be aware of this. In the last month, I've been rewatching The Crown from the very beginning. So I actually just finished the 3rd season. And in my estimation, I think a lot of people are of the view that season 1 is still the best one. If you feel that way, that's fine. I actually think season 3 is pretty fucking amazing. It's kind of underrated.
Honestly, I feel like I can't decide because I love all of them, and then there's like certain episodes in each season that I'm like, oh my god,
I know.
Ain't no way that we're seeing this. Like what?
But you know what really reminded me? It's like, I know some people might hear me and like, usually I'm more sympathetic toward Charles than anybody else, but like, it's because of, honestly, Josh O'Connor. It's because of his performance in particular before Diana even comes into the picture in season 3 and how horribly he's treated. It broke my heart. The last time we see him, I think in the 3rd season, is he's being shipped away while they marry off Camilla to somebody else. At the same time, it's cross-edited with like Elizabeth and Philip celebrating their like wedding anniversary and her talking about like the value of finding that important partner in life, and then it just cuts to baby Josh like crying.
It's so good. I love it.
I'm just saying right now, like, Josh O'Connor really deserved that Emmy that he won for playing Charles. He was fucking amazing. Like, almost for me, like the first episode he had, I think it was when they sent him off to go like learn Welsh. That's a hell of an introduction. And this show has so many like side characters that with big actors. I know in season 5 we mentioned that Timothy Dalton came back. Well, not came back, but played a character that was returning from the first season. What's his name? Group Captain Townsend. In that season, Charles Dance was incredible as Uncle Dickie, like basically the father figure to Charles. I also really liked Harold Wilson, the prime minister of that season. I think to me, like, I don't know what it is about him, do you think Peter Morgan, the person that writes this show, do you think he's a lefty? Because I feel like Harold Wilson, more than any of the other prime ministers, was portrayed to be the one with the most heart. And he was like the only Labour Party prime minister that I think she ever had. Well, not ever, but like one of like 2 only that she ever had. Because the other prime ministers, like not Churchill and Thatcher got a lot of great showcases, but he was very critical, rightfully so, of Thatcher, and in some instances, like what's his name, Churchill, Alexis. It didn't. I forgot about it, but I can think of like 3 times in the course of the history that's in The Crown where conservative administrations fuck something up
Mm-hmm.
that leads to like lives being lost. Like Churchill and the whole smog situation that he ignored all of those things. And then it came to his successor, which was Anthony Eden, that started off a war because he hated the Egyptian president, I think. And then from there it went to, he was in there for like 1 or 2 episodes tops. The guy that replaced Wilson for like a hot minute, Heath, he was like so cold. And so like, he shut down power for like weeks on end because he couldn't give like the strike people what they, the basic necessities. And then, well, there's Thatcher. Oh, and I forget about during Wilson's prime ministership was the whole Aberfan thing. But that wasn't at all the Labour Party's fault. That was the Conservative Party's fault.
I mean,
it's amazing how many times in history this happens.
Yeah, you can make like an argument of both. Sure.
I mean, you could say he's a monarchist at heart. You could say that.
Yeah.
The British nationality is so imbued with the monarchy. It's, you could say that.
It's...
They got their own little thing going on there. That's for sure. Speaking of the British, seeing how they don't like to show emotion and them being cold sometimes makes me understand what they did to Steven Spielberg and the Fabelmans. I don't know if you know about this, but like the British obviously have their own Oscars, their own Academy. They're called the BAFTAs. And they only nominated the film for 1 award, which was Best Screenplay. But we all knew that was going to happen. At least I knew, because it wasn't even long listed. They have this whole jury system where they pick out like they have like some categories they have to put like half the number of women as there are men. Like they have the whole jury committee, which is fine. That's their own thing. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's a bad look when you can't find a place for Steven Spielberg when you release the names of 16 directors on your long list. And it's like, if you dig into the history, the BAFTAs haven't liked Steven Spielberg for a long time. They didn't nominate him for West Side Story last year when everybody else did. They didn't nominate him for Lincoln when everybody else did. So it's clearly a thing with him and his movies they don't like, if that's the problem here. I understand The Fabelmans maybe isn't as strong as some people expected it to be as a picture contender, but like if they consistently don't like your stuff, and the thing is, Spielberg, he's mostly known for producing movies and stories that are inherently sentimental, if not emotional. And maybe, I'm just gonna say it's too emotional for them. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. Maybe, but maybe it's just a him situation. I don't know what's the thing. But, and I'm sorry I got sidetracked, but I also wanted to go wrap around real quickly to the Globes, because you know what? In addition to all the nice things I've already said about them, I feel like consistently they've been the ones to always award my favorite movies. Because don't you forget, they also awarded Boyhood, and they also awarded La La Land. La La Land made history because it won all the Golden Globes that night. Although in retrospect, and again, this is where I call bullshit on the sanctity of the Academy Awards. It was the night that it won every Globe that it was nominated for. La La Land I'm talking about. That people were like, it's overrated.
Yeah.
And it created a backlash. La La Land lost Best Picture. Not necessarily only because there was passion for Moonlight. Yes, there was. But it also lost because enough Oscar voters decided they were tired of hearing about La La Land. So again, do not fool yourself ever into thinking that quality has as much to do with who ends up winning these awards as you think there should be. Because there's always something else going on underneath the surface. And ultimately, Peter and I were talking about this on our group chat about like what are the chances that Everything Everywhere wins? If it wins, what a historic moment. and it forever changes the kinds of movies that could win and be nominated at the Oscars if it does. But did you see that video I sent, that really complicated explanation for how they vote on the Academy Awards? It was a few days ago. Do you need to see it? I think I sent it to you on direct message, but it's fine. You can see it. The difference is, for every category at the Oscars, the winner is decided by popular vote. Simple, right? The person that gets the most votes wins.
Oh, I did. Yes, I did.
Except for Best Picture, where that's not how it is. It is a preferential ballot system. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, if you're an Oscar voter, on your ballot, you have all of the nominees in front of you and a box next to it. And you have to write a number next to those movies and how you rank them from 1 to 10. If a movie, and it has to reach a certain number of votes, and if no movie wins on the first ballot, then they get redistributed. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing: if a film is divisive or just has some detractors, if it gets if it gets ranked in 10th place by some people, that could keep it down. And a film that is more universally liked across the board ends up winning. So, did you know that before this year?
No.
Yeah. There are a lot of crazy fucked up rules for why this.
Yeah.
This
I remember watching
new.
the video and being like, okay.
Why is it this complicated? Yeah. Why not just like the person that gets the most votes?
Yeah.
I mean, or it's like the electoral college, right? Or the presidential election. It's the person that gets the most votes should win, not like who wins the electoral college. And in this instance, it's the preferential the preferential ballot system, and it's a whole thing. Anyway, that's a whole situation there for the award season. I just want to say, it's just a great time for movies in general, and I would encourage all of you who are listening to go check any of these out. And I know we're running along, and I've gone on many tangents, but before we go, I don't want to go before mentioning The Last of Us, because that was a big premiere on HBO. Everyone's talking about it. We've personally been requested to mention The Last of Us, and I also don't know that much about it other than it's Pedro Pascal that's in it. He's great in everything, by the way. Well, not everything. I forget about that one thing. It's based off a video game, and it's about the end of the world, and evidently it's been received across the board rather well. Alexis, so can you, before you even talk about like what you thought of the show, and they only just showed one episode, right?
Yeah, okay. Sunday's the next one.
What is the show about, really?
It's basically...
Because it feels a lot like Walking Dead.
It's literally Walking Dead. But
and I told Sergio that's a big reason why I don't want to watch the show, because like that Walking Dead really, it wore me out on this whole genre.
It's The Walking Dead, but you skip to... You skip like I don't even know how many seasons The Walking Dead has, but you skip to where they kind of create 11. A community. And
it had 11 seasons.
Oh my god.
The Walking Dead had 11 seasons.
After the whole Glenn thing. Like that's that whole chunk is gone. But okay, so it's like the beginning and then it skips over 20 years. So like they're fully established society now, but they kind of live in this like militia type of world. Well, yeah. So like there's differences and stuff, but yeah, like you skip the whole like realizing that it's the end of the world type of thing. But it's interesting. You know, the game is, I mean, huge hit, wild. I've played it before, not like the whole thing, just bits and pieces. I get headaches when I play video games like that, so I watch other people play them, or I'll just watch videos on YouTube and stuff. But yeah, I remember when this game came out, it was huge. And the main thing was the whole story of the game was interesting. So that's why it's been made into a show.
Right.
And yeah, the people that have come out in it, I mean, it's pretty good for the first episode. I personally, controversial, people may hate me. I personally think that The Walking Dead has a better first episode. But
I'm not sure how controversial that is, because
people,
no matter what you want to say,
people love this thing. You know,
they do. That's for sure, and I'm sure people have their opinions, but I don't think anybody can argue with the idea that The Walking Dead's pilot is among the best pilots in the last 20 years. It's a great pilot, yeah. Now, the show itself, what it ended up becoming was, I mean, I'll say I got as far as like 5.5 seasons, and then I dropped off.
Too. Yeah.
And that's more than most people. I think some people, I think Peter was like, I think he left after season 2.
Yeah, that's true. But it's still like it was still a really good first episode.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And yeah, I'm excited to see what happens next.
What's the difference here, if I may, about like the? So with The Walking Dead, it was just straight up zombies. Mm-hmm. Now in The Last of Us, are these things called clickers?
I believe so. Yes. But
they're also just monsters, right?
Did they ever explain in The Walking Dead like what happened?
No.
Okay.
I think, well, technically speaking, not on The Walking Dead, but maybe they did it on their spin-off show called Fear the Walking Dead.
Yeah. I forgot about that. That's funny. I guess here, like, the main thing is, like, the thing that is infecting people, kind of, it, like, transforms them. So, like, it is people, and they do look like zombies, but it's, like, they're not them. I don't know.
So it's like less Walking Dead, more I Am Legend?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, because I can't remember it, but I asked David, and in The Walking Dead, they were slow, right? The zombies?
For most of the show, there was, and I don't know this because I saw it. I know this because I read. At some point in the last 2 seasons, they got fast.
Okay.
It's one of those things.
They're fast.
Oh.
They're fast.
Like Quiet Place? Like the monsters in the Quiet Place? Because those creatures are pretty fast, aren't they?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's, yeah, like this thing that is infecting them, it completely takes over them. And yeah, like, you need to run for your life or just, let it kill you. Because, yeah.
I just like, oh, okay.
Yeah. That's what I told David. I'm like, nope, just, you know what? Kill me now. It's fine.
I don't need to be here.
Yeah. But yeah, it's fine.
Probably a horrible death too.
Yeah, you see a couple. But you know what? They do like a good, I guess, like, they show you
the gore.
No. Like when everything first starts happening, because you're like in it. Like, it's not where like Rick wakes up and this has already happened. No, this like you. The first half of the episode, it's them waking up and going on about their day, and then like in the middle of the day, like you hear it in the background. You hear people talking about it's literally COVID. When you're listening to the radio, you're listening to the news, and you're like, what's happening?
Yeah,
like,
oh my god. Yeah, that's why.
Yeah.
That's why I don't like.
It was a little bit like, whoa, like.
But Alexis, don't you remember? Like, it was when this was happening. It was scary. I don't know for me. I know that I remember being in Chula Vista that weekend, that everything was closing down in early March, and in the background there was a debate. I couldn't even focus on a Bernie Sanders Joe Biden debate because in my mind I was like, well, this shit's already over. I already know that this thing was rigged to begin with, and it was. But second of all I could think of was like, is the world about to end?
Yeah. You get that feeling of like, like you see them going through the things that we went through. All this is starting, and you're just like, oh god. But it's also just like 10 times worse because it's people literally attacking you now, you know, like it's not people getting sick and
it's
coughing.
basically that if all the people that COVID was killing at the beginning, if those corpses got up and started killing everybody else, you know.
Like at one point you see like a whole plane falling into the town.
Fuck.
Yeah, like it's literally, oh, okay, what do we do? And I remember, or I know that like at one point they're trying to leave and everything is blocked off. Like they're just like, we can't go this way, we can't go that way. Like, what do we do? Like, and then they're even like, we gotta go to like a different country. And the people are like, but like, what if it's over there too? Like, what do you mean? Yeah, it is literally just like, what do we do? You know? But it's really good. It's really good.
I mean, HBO doesn't really miss, do they?
No.
I might.
One thing that I did, because I saw this with David and I was laughing because I'm like, they really fucking wasted Pedro Pascal to have him wear a fucking mask in this show. Like, what the heck, man?
Isn't it funny how a trailer dropped for that and no one's talking about it? I didn't see it. It was a waste of time to see it. I didn't see it. No.
Oh God. But you know what? Good for him.
Sure, yeah. Good for him. How long do they... You said you listened to the podcast. Mm-hmm. So what other information have they did they reveal there? About the show, or how long do they see this like going on for?
Well, I asked David. They didn't really say much. They're I mean, right now they're just kind of hoping, like, I hope that people watch it, you know? Because I guess in the podcast, because HBO does like a podcast like right after the episode airs. They do that with all their shows. I don't know if you've ever seen The Gilded Age. You should really watch that one. It's really good.
The Gilded Age? Yeah. Who was in that one?
It's a lot of Broadway people because they made it during COVID. Oh. And so like Broadway was shut down.
Right.
But it's really good. But yeah, they do like all of the shows. I know Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon had their own podcast as well. And then this one, I believe it's the host. And I don't know if you've ever listened to the podcasts from the shows, but it's really cool because they have like the host that is somehow related to the show or the project. And then they have people come in that worked in the show. Not necessarily actors. They do have the actors, but they'll have like the costume designer, the set designer, stuff like that. Like in the Dragons one, they had the set designer, and she kind of pointed out a lot of things that later came back around, and it's really cool.
I bet. And look, I've listened to podcasts or shows of that nature. After shows, I guess you could consider it for shows that I had wanted to do so. Of course, it would surprise you. It wouldn't surprise anybody that with the last season of S.H.I.E.L.D., I did that because, what's her name? Elizabeth Henstridge, the one that plays Simmons on the show. What she did was she did a live Zoom thing with all the directors and people that worked on the individual episodes every single week, and like just talked about the filming of it. And again, it was during COVID, so those are really fun because you get to know so much more information about the making of something that you already like and that's good. And I think those I always am appreciative of companion pieces. So like, for example, you love Turning Red, go see Embrace the Panda. You'll love it even more so.
Things, you know?
You get more out of it, I think.
And you I feel like you in some way connect to it more in the end because you're seeing where the ideas come from, you know?
Right. And especially if you don't have people in your life to talk about these things with,
Yes.
you get so much out of these conversations. Because you get to, it's like hearing somebody else or other people have conversations about something that you've watched.
Like they'll be
yes,
like, oh yeah.
You feel like you're part of the conversation as well.
I'll laugh or like if they say something, I'll be like, oh yeah, that's
yeah.
But anyways, in this one, the host is the person who voiced Pedro Pascal's character in the video game.
Oh, okay.
And in the first episode, they had the creator of the show and the creator of the game who worked together to bring the show.
Mm-hmm.
And the creator of the show was the first one that starts talking, and he kind of talks about how the show came about, because after, like, obviously the huge success of the game, you know, he did want to make a TV show, but it just wasn't happening. Like, he talked about there was a time where Macy Williams was attached to the project, but it was like a previous project of him trying to make the show, but it just never happened and kind of fell apart.
What's the timeline in this? Was this like 2010s they're talking about? How new is this show? Is this game?
The only reason this is because I got the game from my ex. So it's been out for a hot minute.
Great.
And so I don't know how long after the game came out he tried to make the show. And then I don't know how long after was a Macy Williams show and stuff like that. But I believe that it started like either 2019 or 2020 that everything started kind of falling into place. And
as the world was falling apart.
Yes. Yeah. But I guess like the reason why they got like the okay to do it was because the creator of the show actually worked on, I think he was one of the producers or something in Chernobyl.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay, and Chernobyl was really good.
Yeah. And when the creator of the show saw that show, Chernobyl, he was like, no, the creator of the game, he was like, I need this guy. Yes. Yeah. And he somehow got a friend to like get in contact with him, and they entered like the HBO headquarters to pitch it. And the creator of the show was like, I literally just sat back and had him talking, and he had me like, oh yeah, like this sounds like a really good thing, you know, because I guess like the one who made the show was like super passionate about it and stuff. And so I feel like them explaining that part, like I feel more excited to see it.
Oh
yeah.
Don't you just love HBO? God bless HBO.
Yeah, and even the Chernobyl guy, the people at HBO told him, whatever project you want to do next, we'll do it, but just make sure that you have the same passion that you did for Chernobyl. And when he started talking about The Last of Us and like pitching it, they right away were like, yes, okay, this is what we wanted from you. Like, this is the reaction we wanted from you, the passion that we wanted from you.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. It really is. Oh, man. HBO is such a godsend, and they consistently, and I know we kind of like, we mentioned it real quick, but what was really noteworthy about House of the Dragon, or Hot D, as we lovingly like to call it, winning Best Drama Series is, at the Globes particularly, Game of Thrones won 0 times Best Drama Series.
I didn't know that, actually.
They never liked Game of Thrones as much as everybody else did. They nominated the show here and there. What does it say that House of the Dragon came in there and like, Game of Thrones who? I don't know her.
I know.
To be fair, though, I feel like, while I don't think entirely flawless, because I think on the whole, there's a world exists where maybe I would have preferred more than one season with this cast, but still what we got, I think, was exceptional all around enough to where I don't think it's controversial anymore to say that the first season of House of the Dragon is up there with some of the best work Game of Thrones ever did.
Yeah. I think that it didn't have a single miss.
No. Except maybe the lighting in that one episode.
Oh. But it's still a good episode.
It was an amazing episode. I mean, I was seeing this. My room was in complete darkness and I still couldn't see.
In my car watching it in pure darkness. I could not see a single thing.
I still can't believe you did that.
Uploaded it with all the darkness on Twitter.
That's crazy. Also, I want to shout out the Critics' Choice for awarding Better Call Saul, a show unfortunately I've not been able to keep up with, but I remember seeing the first season or two and it was really great, and I hear it ended really amazingly, but for whatever reason, I think like Better Call Saul has like almost 50 nominations and 0 wins. Yep.
Oh my god.
Yeah. It's like 6 years, like it gets nominated every year and every year it wins nothing.
Damn.
That's, yeah.
That's crazy.
It really is, isn't it? So we'll see. The Screen Actors Guild Awards are next, I believe. I don't know when there will be, but I'm curious to see what those results are. And of course, the next time we will be discussing the Academy Award nominations and then maybe also some other movie reviews. In that meantime, do you have like a list of movies that you want to get to, or do you just get to it when you get to it?
Yeah, all of them.
Yeah. All the movies.
Yeah,
all
like
the
I
movies.
really want to see Anywhere, Always, Forever.
You can't even get the name right. Everything, Everywhere, all at once.
I want to see that one, but again, like I want to sit down and pay attention to it, and I just have not been able to do that.
You gotta be in the mindset. That's why you should have caught it in the theater when it was out in the theater. What happened? Where were you?
I was watching Batman 5 million times.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. Anything else we didn't touch on?
I don't think so.
We might have ran the gamut here. Anyway, thank you so much for being here. It was so good to talk to you again. It's been some time. Hopefully we don't have to wait another month for this to happen, or over another month for us. Your month. I know. Even Peter appeared more than you did in the last month or so.
I know. Is he still going back to school or work?
Next month.
Oh, great.
He'll come back. Yeah, I know.
Dang.
So I'm sure your services will be called upon at some point to fill a hole that he would leave and everything. But also, don't forget, Kyle, Peter, and myself, March, we're going to have our personal top 10 films of the year. So don't forget those. Those are always fun shows to look forward to and everything. Remember to catch our podcasts every single Sunday, anywhere you listen to podcasts, under our spotlight for more content and more covering this wonderful year in movies that we will for sure have. Thank you so much, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.